Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Half a Clue Movie Review, your least favorite podcast where four curmudgeons talk about, I don't know, movies or something. To tell you the truth, I don't even really know what I'm doing here. I'm your host, Blake. I'm, of course, joined by...
Jason.
Ron.
Changsu. Let's go.
Okay, Philip, also known as Junkso.
Yeah.
On this week's episode, we are going to be talking about possession movies, of course, in light of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, but we're deciding to talk about, good ones. We'll be talking about The Exorcist, which is not only maybe the most famous horror movie ever made, but maybe one of the most famous movies of all time. It's 80% screaming, and to quote Philip, it would be better had John Krasinski directed it.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
Yeah, Philip said that.
Yeah.
We're also going to be talking about The Wailing, a horrific South Korean movie. If you like fucked up movies, this is the movie for you. There's murder, horrific violence, and dog killing.
Disease.
There's something
body
Changsu
horror.
would like.
Mutilation.
If you like fucked up movies, this is the movie for you. Philip also said that he wished John Krasinski had directed this one as well.
These are all facts.
But first, I guess we should talk about how Amazon just bought MGM, which is kind of big.
Oh, yeah.
So what do they own now that they own MGM?
Yeah,
Is it
that's a
like-
big statement.
Well, that's a big.
Is
They own
Bonds-
they own technically they're co-owners of Bond with the Broccoli producers and like the family and Eon, and they're also with MGM owning the entire back catalog, and also they own the Lion logo.
Okay.
I really
that's how
hope
I'm
they keep
impatient.
that logo. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's probably the best
They
thing
kinda
about
have to.
MGM. Yeah, that's like the most their best image. Like when Disney bought Fox, I really hope that they still sometimes just slap the Fox logo on whatever their more adult shit, and then just put because the Fox is so iconic. Same thing with MGM.
But they took out Fox.
Did they really?
Yeah, now it's just 20th Century Studios. Remember we talked about
really?
this? I'm not gonna go into this whole rant
I
because
don't
I'm
remember
really
our
heated.
conversations.
But the guy who founded Fox basically dedicated his entire life to film, and and he even got blacklisted for how much he loved to film. Back in the the height of the Cold War and stuff like that, and he basically died on the cross for film. And guess what Disney does when they buy? They
What
say
do they do?
They took
they
his
took off
fucking
Fox.
name
They're like, "Fuck you, Fox."
Well, I think it has to do with like Fox News being
yeah, that too, and
what
also
it
like
is.
Fox TV
That would
shows.
be my
But
guess, but I'm also speaking out of
Yeah,
no
Fox
knowledge.
Sports West is no longer Fox Sports West.
I
It's
mean,
Valley Sports now.
and
To be
now
honest, I've
Fox
always-
Searchlight is just Searchlight.
I think I've always separated
That's kinda
Fox from like the Fox media. Like
Mhm.
they've done that themselves for so long. I mean, The Simpsons had always like really lampooned Fox as a network, which was like one of their funniest running jokes. I know I brought up The Simpsons every episode. Like
That was great. I've been rewatching.
yeah, they always make fun
Simpsons
of
sucks.
being on Fox. Like it's just like their entertainment and then their news and whatever are completely separate. I mean, whatever your politics are, they shouldn't really try to like cross it over. I don't know. They should keep the name. Same with MGM.
Yeah, it's
And
such a
the
huge
line.
disrespect to the actual owner of Fox.
Yeah, of course. It's like he's the founded that studio. It's like if they changed Warner Brothers or even Disney.
Yeah, they take Disney off of Disney. What do
Yeah.
they call it? Mickey?
No, it would just be called Walt Pictures.
Wall Pictures.
It's like that's
Their
stupid.
logo
It's
would be Bryan
stupid.
Cranston.
Their name is a fucking time period now. 20th century. Like, the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
it's dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah, it's
I just
dumb.
don't care.
I care.
It doesn't affect me. I don't think
It does affect
Oh,
me.
You
affects
brought it
you.
up.
You have no idea.
Well, I brought up the more like that they're
Oh.
buying that. I don't give a fuck about them dropping names.
Yeah.
or
Oh, Amazon
whatever.
also owns the Rocky franchise.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean with the Bond films too, right?
Yeah.
Am I the only one that doesn't care about James Bond movies all that much? Like I
Yeah.
like I Casino Royale was pretty good. Quantum of Solace sucked.
I love
Skyfall's great.
Bond films. I've like I think I was really introduced to like the early Bond films first, like Sean Connery and shit.
Yes.
Yeah, Octopussy,
Octopussy.
You Only Live Twice, From Russia with Love. Like I watched those first, and then eventually I watched the Daniel Craig ones. But they're fine. I actually think they're like actually really good for the series, just to like kind of refresh the tone rather than just like they got over the top in the 90s, obviously, and then they kind of pulled it back.
Is
which
there
is
is,
good.
is there one where he's like riding a shark or like is that?
Well, I
that
mean,
happens.
there's one where where he fights North Koreans, and the big plot twist is that this North Korean guy who looks super Korean somehow turned into the main pirate from pirate show from Stars.
What?
Yeah, he turned Irish. This Korean guy.
He literally turns Irish?
Yeah, he literally turns Irish. And then, like, he tries to speak Korean, you know, and he goes, like, nah, dude, eat jakukti.
Oh my god.
It sounds like an alien language.
What movie is this?
Yeah, what era is this?
This is the one with Halle Berry, his Pierce Brosnan's last film.
That's like
that's
the worst one.
Yeah,
That's
the
that
worst
killed-
one.
Another Day.
That
Yeah,
killed
Die
the
Another Day,
franchise.
yeah.
That's a shame. That's a cool title. Die Another Day.
Yeah,
I
it's
think-
also. Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say that was actually the Madonna theme song.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I don't think I've seen
What's
it.
the new one called? Like Good Day to Die.
Good Day to
no.
Die. Or no,
No,
that's Die Hard.
I think honestly,
Too young to die. No, that's a Nicholas Winding Refn thing.
too old to die.
What's
Too old to die.
Wait,
young.
don't look it up. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. We gotta guess.
Alright, so that we have
Death
Casino
Die
Royale,
Another Day.
Quantum of Solace.
Die Another Day. No.
I think it's
What's
Die
it
Another
called?
Day.
Okay, well I'm gonna look it
Skyfall.
up now.
I'm like
Spectre.
90% sure it's Die Another Day.
No, it's not Die Another Day.
Don't
I know that
Die
for
Another
sure.
Day.
Don't. Do not
The
die
day-
the next day.
Huh.
Don't-
The Day to Die is
Oh my
not
gosh.
today.
I am so embarrassed. Oh
Two-
gosh, it's Carrie Joji Fukunaga.
Die
Don't say
Another
it, don't
Day.
say
Oh,
it.
it's no
No,
time
no,
to
no, no,
die.
no.
I
Alright.
basically had
No,
it.
you actually.
I basically had it.
It's
Yeah.
no time to die.
Okay, okay.
I think honestly the Bond series has been due for a reboot.
Why?
Daniel Craig, because Daniel Craig doesn't even want to do it. What did he say after like Spectre?
Yeah,
He
he's
was
been
like,
saying it.
he's like,
for
I'd rather
like 3
fucking
movies now.
slit my own wrists
Rami
than come back
Malek's
and do
the
this.
villain, right?
But what about $200 million?
is Rami Phillip? You'd know this. Is
Yeah, Rami Malek. Is
I love
the
Rami
villain.
Malek, so maybe
Yeah.
I'll watch it for him.
He'll be great. No, but also the director is Kerry Joji Fukunaga, who did the True Detective season 1,
Okay.
The Beast of No Nation. Like that guy. Well, I don't know how much creative control he has over it because from what I heard, all the people he brought in, like most of them have been like out
Oh, that
while
sucks.
making it. So we'll see. I mean, it'll look pretty. It's super expensive, like $300 fucking million or something.
Am I tripping or is Rami Malek wearing like a Phantom of the Opera mask?
Yeah, at one
Yeah,
point he
he's-
does have he does not. Yes, he wears something like that, and then he has some type of facial scarring.
See, I think that's like one of the issues is that like the Bond franchise getting like gritty and like more like the Bourne franchise with Casino Royale and everything was totally fine. Like that was like a straight thriller action, which is awesome. Now they're trying to incorporate some of those like more classic Bondness
Like all
to
the
it.
gadgets and shit.
Yeah, and all like the gadget shit, and then it's like it doesn't quite hold up, or it doesn't quite work. I think in that tone, like if that's why it's like I don't know, stop making them for a little while, and then return to it in a couple years, some new fresh ideas, whatever. We'll see what happens. Like, just let it go, let it die for a while. This is the time to die.
For 3 years and then another one.
Smoothly spoken.
What's it called? And what's it called?
Any other news in the movie realm that you guys want to talk about?
AMC bought ArcLight.
John Krasinski.
We're not a
Yeah.
top
Married.
Wait, AMC bought ArcLight?
Yeah, AMC bought ArcLight.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so ArcLight's coming back. I don't know when.
That's
but, like,
cool.
That's really-
yeah,
that-
I'm
that
really
makes me
happy to
happy.
hear that.
Yeah,
I'm
that
really
makes
happy
me
to hear
happy.
that.
That's good.
So
My dad will be super happy. He watches. I don't know. I didn't even know that he was a big fan of that theater, but he was like really upset about it.
yeah, ArcLight is like probably one of my favorite theaters to ever go to, and it's like Ron and I, we've watched a couple movies there, and Ricardo who's in the back. We watch like the Hateful Eight or
Yeah, just
Dunkirk
wave.
and stuff.
Ricardo.
There's an
Dunkirk. Yeah, wave
unseen-
to the people, Ricardo.
I wasn't.
frantically waving.
I'm still upset that I wasn't invited to that Hateful Eight screening.
I
That
did.
was on purpose.
I
You
did
did not invite
I
me.
did
Don't you
invite.
dare.
I mentioned it several times. I invited you. Okay, look, I'm gonna address this little nib in the
This
bud.
is like
There's
6
a couple
years ago.
times I have invited you. It's always like, oh, maybe I could go. And then after we go, because you say you didn't give me a definite answer, you're like, why didn't you invite me?
Okay,
There was the
maybe
Irishman
that's
too.
happened.
Yeah.
Maybe that's happened. This
Several
was not.
times.
This okay. Yeah, I'm saying. I'm sure that's happened.
Yeah.
This was not the case for Hateful Eight.
Well,
I would have gone to Hateful Eight.
thankfully, the ArcLight is still around, so this argument can continue.
Unless we got a
Yes.
fucking time machine and go back and I
Yeah.
can watch the Hateful Eight in theaters.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to watch movies. That's where we watched Dunkirk
Yes.
in
Oh, that was
2001 when it's re-released. Where
Oh, that'd be dope.
Christopher
Christopher
Nolan came
Nolan.
out,
yeah,
right?
Christopher
Yeah.
Nolan was there. That was a complete surprise. That was pretty awesome. Like he just showed up and was like, "I love this movie," and then like,
Yeah, and we were really close to him too.
yeah. I caressed his leg and everything.
I was close. I really was. I should have just grabbed his elbows or something.
Yeah, I
don't know.
slipped my number into his pocket.
Oh, great. He had a big bushy beard too. Probably like in the middle of thinking of his idea for Tenet. It was like, how do I make this movie good? But I'm just kidding.
Well, he didn't come up with a good answer.
I still like the movie.
I
Yeah.
hate Tenet. We'll argue about it again sometime.
Oh, and everyone's favorite cartoon show as a kid. is gonna get a spin-off show, SpongeBob spin-off show, Patrick's Star Show, coming to
I don't
Paramount
care.
Plus.
I could not care less about anything on Earth than this.
I think
I don't give it.
It's one of those
I
shows
care
that
more
just
about
should have
this than
died.
Willy Wonka prequel.
Really? Well, I mean, I guess it probably affects you more personally.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I love SpongeBob.
This show's gonna suck. Patrick
yeah.
was too stupid to carry his own show. That's why he was a side character.
He's one of those classic side characters. Like, we've had a running joke of like Jack Sparrow in the first Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, he was great, he was funny, but he wasn't the main character.
Yeah.
And then after that, they're like, it's Jack Sparrow the movie. Like, it's all just Jack
Yeah.
Sparrow, and it's like you completely are just overdoing his character. Same thing with Patrick. Like, he was funny. Like, he'd show up and do like a dumb gag, and that was great. And that's all you really.
But you don't
needed.
want
I just don't
you don't want to
care.
understand the emotional core of like Patrick the Star. Like, get into nitty gritty and what possibly made him to how
I'm
he
surprised
was.
they've never
Yeah, I
tried
want
to
a
make
dark
like
prequel. To
Yeah, they need to
Patrick.
I want a
like a-
Logan style Patrick Star thing. It's an older Patrick, and SpongeBob's dead, and like,
Bikini Bottom's a weightless
and he's
man.
like pushing around Mr. Krabs in a wheelchair the movie.
he carries like the empty husk of like Mr. Krabs' shell.
Things are different, Mr. Krabs. All the other sea creatures are gone.
The sponge is dead.
Because you guys are bringing this up, I do want to mention on YouTube there is an anime version of SpongeBob.
Are you
Oh,
talking
I've
about
seen
one
that.
from, like,
Yeah, I've seen that.
2007?
Yeah. That
No,
was great.
it just came out like last year. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
like a whole episode. It is actually really hilarious to watch. It's worth a watch.
I would love to see an anime spin-off of SpongeBob.
If you're gonna try to do a spin-off, at least make it something completely outrageous. Make it something completely like different.
I would just say
Like,
don't.
no,
Yeah,
I would love
I mean,
to see
don't,
Patrick
but if you're
Star
gonna-
look at
It is
SpongeBob.
a total-
SpongeBob.
That's exactly what it's like. It's a total fight anime. It's like it feels like you're watching like Dragon Ball Z or Naruto. Like honestly, it's
Like,
I mean, you could kind of frame their karate fights, right? Like that, like
Oh, yeah.
SpongeBob.
Yes. Or even when Plankton, when he invades the Krusty Krab, he comes in like from top angle, low angle, and it's like SpongeBob middle frame. It's like the light descending from the sky, and Plankton going Krusty Krab.
The frame is like zipping by him as
Yeah.
he's just standing there.
And it's like, ah. Oh gosh, that'd be great. Oh, I want to see that now.
So I guess we should also talk about what we've been watching lately. I, for one,
What have you been watching?
well, they say we're in the golden era of television, and I've really been taking advantage of this.
I would say so.
So I caught an episode of Ancient Aliens.
Oh no.
The specific episode title was The Reptilian Agenda.
Oh wow.
So I kind of want to give some pre-context for this because it's really important.
I mean, we need to know, right?
This is very important.
This is our history too. So.
This is also they should just show this in like history class now.
Yeah, honestly.
So we have a good friend who's kind of a conspiracy guy, and week to week we have to hear his ramblings. And it's
Awful.
it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's just, nothing less, but it's just entertaining.
Hi,
at the
Sam.
most.
Hi,
You know
Sam,
who
if
you
you're
are.
listening to this, I'm sure I'll get a text message. So one of the things that I have to hear, this has become a weekly discussion for me. He's obsessed with this thing called DUMBs, which is Deep Underground Military Bases.
What an
It's-
apt name.
And I don't even know. I just like, yeah, if they exist, is it necessarily a nefarious purpose? And he always mentions that, of course, Jordan Peele's movie Us heavily involves DUMBs. Anyways, I was hanging out with him late night last week, and we were scrolling through Ancient Aliens. We're like, this would be pretty funny to watch. And then we saw one titled The Reptilian Agenda, and he very appropriately said, if there's one we're going to watch, this is it. And wouldn't you know it, it goes into great detail about how ancient reptilians have built DUMBs. The ancient reptilians designed these deep underground military bases to secretly, travel?
to
To do something.
to just go, just like, because like, why could
And-
they possibly use cars or anything else? If they're
Now,
just in our
really quick,
everyday
I'm
society?
assuming Sam took this as confirmation of his
No, he did make a good joke. He looked at me and went, "See," but no. Obviously, he's not buying into the whole, that show.
Oh yeah, because it's the watered down
Version of
History
Us.
Channel. Yeah, right. It's
yeah,
not,
that's on the
not
History.
True.
Can you believe that this is on the History Channel?
At this
The
point,
History
it's
Channel
just-
is
wow.
garbage.
It's gone
at
down
this
the
point.
drain.
Okay, obviously I don't want to get hung up on fucking Ancient Aliens, the Reptilian Agenda for too long, but I do want to say one thing that I thought was really funny about this, was that There'll be long periods where they're talking about things that aren't like ridiculous. Like they were in some other country, I don't remember which one it was, but they're digging around like these ancient ruins, and it's like, oh, here's like the remnants of an ancient civilization, and like it's going on for 5 minutes. It's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool, you know? It's like this is like some early life. And then like you kind of like trick yourself into thinking you're watching an actual like documentary, and it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. It's like, is this evidence that an alien war took place? And it's like, oh.
I love that. Just like in that show, basically the whole gist of it is humans have done nothing. We've accomplished nothing.
Everything is an alien agenda.
Every single technological, philosophical like advance of the human race from when we were like fucking, you know, slinging spears out in like, you know, the nature, every other step from now has been aliens because of them, you know, everything.
Yeah, we're too stupid to do this.
Yeah, to do anything. Microchips? I don't think so.
Aliens, bro.
You figured out agriculture? Lies. You couldn't have done that yourself.
Running water? No way.
Anyways, we probably shouldn't get too hung up on
anyway,
stupid ancient aliens. Does anybody else?
I do want to say that the reptilian agenda was literally the plot of a Doctor Who episode, or I think even like 2 episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh, I'm sure that show's been on for like 60
So-
years.
Wait, which Doctor?
Like they probably hit everything.
I think it was David Tennant when he
David.
was on.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Lost never touched reptilians. Interesting.
I mean, if
Dr.
it
Who.
gone on,
Yeah,
if it kept going,
they would have done it.
they
eventually.
would have definitely been like, it turns out, actually.
Does anybody else have anything else they've been watching that they want to talk about or discuss?
I've been watching The Exorcist. How about you?
All right, is that our lead-in?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go into The Exorcist.
All right, Ronald, I guess you're introducing The Exorcist.
All right, The Exorcist, probably, like we mentioned at the top of the show, one of the greatest and most renowned and well-known horror films of all time. It was really one of those like paradigm shifts in the genre. Came out in 1970 with the director William Friedkin, who had done movies like The French Connection beforehand, Certified Crazy Dude. The guy, he's quite a director. We'll get into it later. But with music by Jack Nazish. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Starring.
I mean, sorry. I mean, wait, are you talking about the main mom?
Ellen Burstyn,
Ellen Burstyn,
and
yes.
Linda Blair, Jason Miller.
Max
Going to
von
say,
Sydow.
I'm gonna
And
be
R.I.P. Max
free.
von Sydow.
Yeah, R.I.P. Max von Sydow. Sydow.
Sido.
Sido?
Sido or
Sid-
Sid-
I don't know.
I've always said Sido.
I've always said that too, but I'm sure it's wrong.
I think I always said Sid now, but looking at it, I'm like, there's no N. I don't know where I got that from. But
Sidow?
Whatever.
Yes.
He's
I've
like,
never known how to say his name.
he's a great actor, and unfortunately he passed. But
Last year,
no,
right?
yeah. So this is the
Pretty
great.
recent, yeah.
Yeah. It was last year. That's one of the things that just got buried under 2020, unfortunately. So what do you guys think of The Exorcist?
It was eight. I'm just kidding. It's obviously a great movie.
All right, so The Exorcist, the actual story, is about this woman who is an actress, and she's living in Georgetown, or she's actually working in Georgetown, and her daughter becomes possessed by this ancient evil, and you watch her slowly unravel. And at the same time, there is a Jesuit priest who has lost his faith or is in the current state of losing it. And this is like the story of good versus evil and the corruption of innocence. Yeah. So what would you guys say is your standout moments, Blake?
Mine, I think, might surprise you. I don't think, because it's not one of the crazy, super iconic scenes. My standout moment is actually when Father Damien, he's having a dream about his mother, and he's trying to cross the street, and she's on the other side, and he's like trying to wave to her, but she's not, like, she's kind of ignoring him, and then she walks back down into the tunnel, and he can't reach her. It's like a vision or a dream that he's having. I don't know what it is. I just really, really like that moment. I thought it was perfect. It was like a perfect visual representation of what it's going for. His like guilt, his shame, his wanting to have been there when she passed. I don't know. It just really, really did it for me. I think it was definitely my favorite scene in the movie.
Oh yeah, there's lots of guilt and like shame that just like resides over this film. This poor guy. How about you, Jason?
Honestly, I watched this movie twice this week. You know, the first time I just watched through it, but the second time I paid really close attention to the opening. I feel like that isn't talked
Yes.
about much, but I think it's fucking brilliant.
That was my runner-up.
It's a great,
It's
great
great
opening.
So like the whole opening, it feels so out of place in like the context of the movie, but like when you really like just watch it, like there's people basically watching him the whole time, you know, like there's all this Pazuzu like imagery, and then when the clock stops in that room and he's like looking at the clock like what, like I don't know, there's just a lot of things going on in the opening that I don't think is discussed a whole lot.
And it sets up Father Merrin pretty well for that, especially like whether it's his you know, the pills he takes for his, you know, basically heart
the
condition.
nitroglycerin, I think it is.
Or his like search for the truth, or like how he's really obsessive about like, you know, nature of good and evil. Like
That shot of the statue standing over him is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that because the way they're framed, they're like set as equals, right?
Yeah. It's like this standoff moment between them. And
It's
the
like they're
desert.
going to battle, and you see those two dogs fighting. One's white, one's black, and they're like going at each other. And you hear them fight as he's staring at the statue. It's really fucking good.
No, it is. Like, John, you should look at this and be like, okay, this is how I should make my this right there.
I think it's like, that's like the sound design is also set up really well, and just that opening, like just you get the sense of the city in Iraq and everything, just like this whole ancient evil and that like foreboding sense that is just built with that sound design underneath. It's really great.
Yeah, I don't know why from that's even, and it's great. Like all the stuff that you mentioned, I remember. But the one thing that I remember the most, I don't know why, is when the kid is trying to, you know, run to Father Merrin, and then like it follows him and it stops at the kind of like the weird cross shot. Where, Father Merrin's like underneath like the kid's crotch. I'm like, I'm like,
that's a different kind of foreshadowing.
No. I'm like, oh, it's like and besides, you know, the foul language I use, but it's actually like somehow like it's stuck with me or something. Like he's within this confines of like, you know, what's called his search for like the evil artifact that he's trying to find. But yeah, I mean that literally shot for shot, I think very different too, like from the rest of the movie. Like everything else is kind of documentary-esque, but that one's probably a lot more traditional with whip pans.
It's very cinematic.
Yeah.
Lots of
what
symbolism.
about you, Philip? What would you say your moment is?
My favorite moment is either the one, I mean, okay, there's the obvious ones where, you know, it's like kind of like the wide shot of her descending the stairs with her head backwards.
The spider walk.
The spider walk, yeah.
Singular moment.
And then, but then I think one of my favorite moments is when I think the lieutenant comes in and talks to, I think, Chris, Ellen Burstyn's character, about the murder, and then like it's just like a slow zoom and stuff like that, and slow zoom out, like just like at the right moments. I think it was
absolutely.
like a masterful moment of directing. Like any other director, John, would like just do shot, reverse shot, or like and then without using like the camera to accentuate the dialogue, right? Mm-hmm. But he, you know, zooms in and out the right moment where he's talking about like specific gritty nature of the crime. But then when he kind of relaxes and the camera goes back a little, and I'm like, that's really.
I was watching this with my mom because she loves this movie and she wanted to watch it with me. So I was watching that movie and I paused it after that moment and I was like, did you notice that the camera moved in as the closer he got to the truth, and then moved right back out once?
He's like, I think it was just
started
some dude.
Relaxing a little bit.
He's like, probably some guy just broke his neck. I don't fucking know.
I'm
guessing some
like,
big strong dude. And then you see Ellen Burstyn, like the mom, her reaction to it, she's like, oh yeah, right? Like totally. Yeah. She's like, yeah, probably some dude. If I had to say my moment, it's with Ellen Burstyn, actually, the part when they explain to her that the director of the film that she's shooting, whatever, that he died on the steps, like right outside. He's like, he died right there. And she's like, oh God, like her reaction is just so like, God damn it. Like just shit just keeps happening to this poor woman. Like it just keeps compounding, more and more shit just keeps piling up. She can't figure out what's wrong with her fucking kid. And then like now she's like, now this guy died like right there. Jesus. And she just like is
and then
down.
immediately her daughter is acting like a fucking maniac.
Yeah,
crawling
with
down the
spider
stairs.
walking down the stairs, and she's like, "Oh my God!" Like, oh, everything that's in the director's cut, by the way. In case you have not seen
I
that
should
one.
mention I saw the theatrical cut.
Okay,
so you didn't have the.
So I think that's a great moment because apparently that was like a discussion that the director and the writer had, where the writer did want that scene in there, but the director didn't because he felt like it was kind of like the climax of two different emotions. But they made a good compromise, I think, where it does feel like it's just adding to more shit. It's just like, oh my god, this guy died, and then oh my god, my daughter's walking down the stairs. And
I think it
fucking
works
spider.
though.
Well, and it adds to like the struggle of that character, right? It's just like there's no break. It's honestly exhausted.
Yeah.
We're exhausted. We feel our exhaustion throughout
Exactly.
the time. Yeah, gosh. And then and even like that whole gosh. That
Could
movie.
you imagine if sorry, totally off topic. Could you imagine if the Safdie brothers had directed this?
Oh, you know what? You know what?
It would all been
think
handheld.
that would be pretty interesting. I would love to see.
Just because they're into the whole one after another kind of
Just all
beats.
these moments just constantly happening to each other.
I do have one more standout moment.
Yeah, all right.
When Max von Sydow walks in and the demon goes, "Look how old you've become," and then he just goes, "Something far worse has happened to you."
Okay, I think that's one thing we should definitely address. I mean, a lot of people have talked about it, but the makeup done by Dick Smith in this film is so well done. I think just specifically the old man makeup done by done on Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching this movie a long time ago, and I just thought that that's just how he was, because like I'd seen Max von Sydow and other stuff, and I was like, yeah, he's an old guy. And then later I was like, wait, that doesn't make any fucking sense. This movie came out in the 70s.
Yeah.
I'm like, what has he been
He was
old
super
for
young in
50
that,
years? Yeah, no, he was very young, but the
I think
old
he
makeup was
in
done
his
so
40s.
well.
I think.
Yeah,
Is
early
that
40s. Early 40s.
I think it was 42.
Yeah, which is again, he just aged up just like that. That's
Yeah.
just how he
Yeah.
looks. That's just how he looks now, or looked. Oof.
No, all the makeup is great. All the effects are great. Like, specifically for a movie made in 73, they got everything right.
Yeah.
And it shows, because it's pretty fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah, like again, like Reagan's very subtle, like scarring on her face, which apparently was supposed to be done. Well, the crucifix that she had like scratched at her own face, and they kind of just layered on top of it. Like,
Yeah, I like how they build to it too. It kind of starts out as like her face is getting a little scarred, and then by the end, it's like the famous iconic image.
yeah, and apparently the last thing they wanted to do was affect her eyes, put in like the actual contacts in her eyes, because until then you can still see Reagan, right, the little girl,
Yeah.
but once it comes to the full blown exorcism, when it's good against evil, and it's the actual full presence of the demon. That's when you lose the eyes, which is, I think, just brilliant.
Yeah, it's genius.
It's great.
No, I like that. I do like the subtle progression, like Dick Smith uses the makeup to like, and we'll get into this later, where like one of the big things about like these exorcism movies, like after the possession, is like the turn of the possessed victim. They change mentally, physically, and spiritually, and the physical transformation. I still to this day I don't think matches. Even in my other possession movies, we'll talk about the Wailing. Like, I don't think it matches the work done on this film by both kudos to Willem Friedkin and how he decided where to apply the makeup. Dick Smith, who actually did the makeup, and I wish that future possession horror films, like usually I think like in some of the Conjuring films, even though I do like them, but like when they get possessed, it's just like normal looking face, so like
Yeah,
Like,
they do the
Second.
full blown demon
Yeah.
face.
There was one shot of that in this movie that felt out of place, because in the director's cut it was 2000, so they added in some CGI stuff. It was when she was being hypnotized, and she like turns, her face gets a little like digital and stupid. I didn't like that.
Is that the one where they put the I'm looking at the face on the thing where her, like it's like going in between like her faces. There's her face, and it shows like the demon's
Pazuzu's
face.
face.
The
No,
Pazuzu's face,
it
or
was
the other
basically
one?
she looked at the guy and growled, and for some reason her face was distorted. I caught that.
okay.
It felt
I remember.
it felt dumb. I wish they hadn't put that in, but it was
Yeah.
the 2000s. Everyone was doing that shit. So.
Yeah.
They should have completely George Lucas it.
Yeah, they should have probably.
Although I did also notice in the director's cut near the end, while she's levitating, you can still see the strings. Like, why not edit that shit out? Like,
Oh, I know.
but whatever.
It's probably better that they just didn't, right?
Yeah,
like
just
it's
leave
just
it.
keep
Fine.
it in.
Yeah.
I think there's like even there's a part when Reagan slaps the mom and she like flies back against the wall. If you look closely, you can see the string that the stuntmen were using to yank her back.
Yeah,
And that was like
she
another-
injured herself.
Yeah, she got hurt.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. Like Ellen
That
Burstyn-
guy is an asshole.
Oh,
The
yeah.
special effects guy.
And the director.
No,
by
Yeah.
the
I don't
way.
blame the special effects guy. I blame William Friedkin.
Yeah,
He's the
well,
I
one
don't know, dude. When
Yeah.
he was talking about when Reagan was flopping back and forth, he's like, I got her.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
dude, relax.
The director does come off as like a super weird control freak where like all this I don't know. I feel like I was reading the IMDb trivia and, I don't know how true all of it is, but it just seems like everything went wrong and the director was just kind of like, oh, fuck it, keep the camera rolling.
Yeah.
Like the whole, of course, the gun incident where...
He brought multiple guns to set and would fire them off to scare the shit out of the
Oh
actors.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, it's weird. It's like the question is like, he's an undeniable
He had guns
asshole.
hidden around the set. Like,
Yeah. Like, I forget who it was. They said one of the security guys or something was like, all right, William, like, where are the guns? And he's like, oh, there's a handgun over there, and there's like a shotgun behind that door over there. Just like, okay.
It's like I don't know. It's so. I remember Ellen Burstyn and Jason Miller were all like complaining, like, yeah, I don't think like if we were bigger names, we would have said something, but we didn't have shit going on.
Yeah. I love that. Like, again, with the shotgun at one point, like when the father is listening to the tapes of Reagan's voice, and he's like slowly, like very quietly listening to it. It's very like drawn in scene, and then apparently when the phone goes off and you see the father get spooked, that's because William Friedkin had shot a shotgun off like 2 feet away from his head, and then he stood up and like got pissed off at him. He's like, what the fuck is your problem? Why are you doing that to me or whatever? It's like, what are you gonna do if like I walk off the set? And he's like, oh, we got Jack Nicholson in the wings, like don't worry about it. Like just fucking with him. Yeah, directors in the 70s could just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
He's a crazy person.
And what do you guys think? I mean, like, in a weird way, I mean, like, to be honest, I haven't seen. It's pretty. The performances in these are insanely convincing, right?
Yeah. I don't think you need...
But-
You shouldn't.
No, I don't think you
really-
should now. But do you think like there's a question of that? It's like there's always the stories of like directors being assholes to get what they want.
Yeah,
but they
like
do
Kubrick,
deliver
everything that they got from The Shining.
Oh my god, what is it, Aguirre, The Wrath of God? That's the one where like
Oh,
the whole
Aguirre,
production
yeah.
is like...
Yeah, fucking what's his face? The main actor, I forget his name, from Aguirre and a lot of the what's his name? The director. I can't.
Are you talking about? Oh gosh,
He's my favorite fucking guys. I can't remember his name.
he's Werner Herzog.
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, Werner Herzog. Yeah. Oh gosh, that guy's crazy.
Yeah, he's
he's
one of my
nuts.
favorites.
He got shot like during an interview.
Yeah, he's just like, I just got shot.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Directors
Let's
were
keep
just
going.
something else
Yeah.
back then.
So what is the notion? Do you guys feel like? I mean, I have a certain opinion about this, but do you guys feel like his methods were justified in doing this? Like,
I don't
in delivering the product, right?
I think there's a line. And
Yeah,
definitely
I think
crossed
I think if you're going so far as to hurt your actors, then maybe you should take a step back.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
But
that
are you worried that if he didn't do that, would the product change?
No, I think he still could have
I
been a
think
great
we
movie.
would have gotten a less convincing scream, like from Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah, with the part when she gets sucked back onto the
Yeah,
wall.
and then like he had the cameraman like go into her face, and she's like screaming in pain because her back is like fucked up, and it's just like, okay, you're basically profiting off of someone's pain right now. Like, just
I think he could have pulled it off without the shenanigans. He's obviously a good director. He didn't need the extra level of being a psychopath on set to get the movie he wanted.
Yeah,
in my
it
opinion.
reminds me of this one story, and I'm totally gonna butcher this story, but like, it's Dustin Hoffman went onto a set, and he was working with this classically trained like British actor.
Oh wait, you mean Laurence Olivier, right?
Yeah, Laurence Olivier.
I remember that. Yeah.
And
Olivier,
basically,
yeah.
Dustin Hoffman was part of that new school of acting of being very method, and he was coming in and complaining that he'd like not slept in like 3 days to get this like very specific, like scene, feeling for the scene. And then Laurence Olivier is like, "My boy, have you never heard of acting? Like, he's like, just act that shit out. You don't have to actually torture yourself." And I don't know. It's really hard to tell. Like, really, I think in those instances, if the actor is willing to go that far, if the actor is willing to put in that level of commitment, then sure, as long then whatever, then fine, they're willing to go that method. But I don't think it's on the director to physically impose that onto them, like breaking them down psychologically, like Kubrick on The Shining, or like
Poor Shelley
physically
Duvall.
hurting your actors. Like, that's not okay. There's a consent. I
I don't think method acting is like a thing that actors actually need to do.
I think it depends.
I
It
think
really
it's
does
fine.
depend.
Like, you choose the way you want to like represent like the character. If you want to method act, go ahead. But like, I don't know, if you're physically hurting yourself to get it done.
Yeah.
Like, I think Shia LaBeouf like literally cut himself for the set of or for his character in Fury.
Jesus.
Like he cut his face.
Oh my gosh.
He has a scar in that movie, and it's a real scar. And it's just like, okay,
Yeah,
relax, dude.
That movie?
Like we have makeup, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, of course,
for-
is a certified weirdo.
Oh yeah. Even then, it's like that comes off as so like poserish. Like I don't know. Like I feel like
And
he's...
for what, 5 minutes of screen time?
Yeah, dude. Seriously, you know he was so pissed at that.
Yeah.
It's like I think that he's one of the he falls into that category where it's like you should probably just try to act more
Yeah.
than do you really need to sell send used condoms to like your actors? Are you really getting into that Joker headspace? Not really. You're just coming off as an asshole,
Yeah, he should have robbed a bank if he wanted to fucking.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, or even like Heath Ledger, he like supposedly locked himself in a room for like however many days, and that's
got his
fine.
own
You're
life.
not fucking with other people.
Yeah,
You're trying to get into that headspace,
Yeah.
sure, but like don't fucking push it on other people for no reason.
I also find it more impressive when actors don't have to do that and still
Yeah,
pull off great
that's what I'm
performances.
saying.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
like
Sometimes
fucking
maybe
act.
They might just be bad actors.
Yeah.
Do your
I'm just kidding.
job.
I'm just kidding.
Okay,
Could you imagine-
anyway,
okay, sorry, last comment.
All right, then we got to go back to the
Could
Exorcist.
you imagine any other profession where you had to like do something like that? Like, I don't know. What if you were a fireman and you had to set your own house on fire and put it out every day before you go to work to like get in character?
I have
don't
to.
know.
This has to be my fire. I have to go into this hoping to protect my own property.
Anyways, let's get back into it.
All right, so Exorcist, like we were saying. Okay, so some of the favorite shots in this film. What do you guys think? Because I've got one. I'll start off the bat here. I think again, going back to the opening in Iraq, that the shot of both of them standing next to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just like the, of course, it's a classic scene, but like I think just the sun going down, that like huge imposing sun.
Yeah, it does that like 3 times in the opening. 3 different shots of the sun, and it's like a blood red. It's really good. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, I think that's like honestly like when the sun is setting over Iraq, it's just like it just somehow just like it brings up these senses of like this. This evil is very ancient. Like, the fact that it's a Sumerian burial site, like this even predates Christianity. This is something that's really old, and that's just like, I don't know, it's awesome. I feel like it kind of really gets all that in there.
Yeah, I agree. It's like whether it's the opening or like what's called or like later the shots. What about what are your thoughts on like the actual exorcism then?
Oh,
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
the actual
Yeah,
shots.
actual exorcism.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of great little subtle scenes. Like I think probably the best one for me, I think it's probably the most standout moment is when the statue of the Pazuzu comes out and you see
Yeah.
Reagan's distorted body as the pillar of light is like shining in front of them, and it's just like, holy crap! It just all suddenly becomes way more surreal and intense.
Did they? How did they? I was like looking at the behind the scenes. Like they put the temperature down really low, right, to get like
They like
frost.
refrigerated that room.
Yeah.
And it works really effective. Like when you actually see their
But
breath
again,
coming out.
kind of torturing your actors because there's this 12-year-old girl in a nightgown in that room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Linda Blair. I mean, even though it wasn't her voice that did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, fucking fantastic, dude.
Oh yeah, she's like a great actor. I think that was great. I love that the voice actor that they got for that. She was this other classic like Hollywood actress, and they had her like gargling egg whites and like chain smoking
And drinking
And drinking
alcohol.
whiskey.
Yeah, and she's like, "What an excellent day for an exorcism."
Yeah.
That's awesome.
If we're gonna talk about favorite shots, I do want to bring up mine.
Okay.
Jason stole my first one, of course, which is the statue shot in the beginning. I remember seeing that, man, like, holy fucking shit. But my second favorite is actually when the mom is on the phone and she's like, operator, what do you mean he's not gonna fucking call her on her birthday? And the camera's just pulling out slowly through the house, and it eventually ends up and you see like Reagan, this is prepossessed Reagan, and she's just kind of listening in. I don't know what it is. I just really liked that whole sequence of just the camera slowly kind of panning through the whole house. And that's one of my favorite things about the whole movie is I like that the camera is just gliding through this house. It feels very voyeuristic. It feels very like intimate. You're just constantly like on this ride through this fucking literal haunted house.
Yeah, like a lot of how they shoot it is like it's not over the top. It's not like intentionally too dark, except for certain scenes like probably the darkest scene is when she goes up in the attic, you know, and she's like, that's like the also like only jump scare in the movie when she has the candle and just boom. It's very subtle.
Yeah, why did that happen?
And then the guy's fucking looking for rats.
He's like,
at 4 in the
there's
morning.
no rats.
Why are you doing this at 4 in the morning?
I like that one just because it's again, there's no like big musical sting or anything that like makes it like, bah! It's not like a jump scare. It's just like startling, but like again, it fits in the moment. It feels earned.
I thought she hit like a gas leak or something. I don't know.
Well, I like that. That's too. It's a lot of the early like scares and little moments are believable, and you can totally understand why someone would rationalize them. Like,
I was gonna bring up like the opening of her character, her first scene, when she wakes up in bed, or she's like reading in bed or something, and she gets up and she walks out in the hall and she hears the scratching in the attic.
Yeah.
And then she's like, what the fuck is that? And then she goes into her daughter's room and the window's wide open. And to me, that's telling me, like someone watching a movie, something is in her house that she doesn't want. But then she thinks, oh, it's just rats. We'll fucking kill them. It's fine. Which I thought was
completely
a really nice touch.
believable.
Off the bat, you know something is off in this house.
It's totally rational. Like, even like the little moment when Reagan pulls out the Ouija board. And then she's like, oh, here, like, you guys want to do it? And then as the mom reaches for it, it kind of just lightly scoots away from her. And she's like,
you really don't want to play.
Okay. Anyway, I'm just not going to acknowledge that. Whatever. Like, it's fine. Because, again, if that happens in real life, you might be like, whoa, that was freaky. But
you moved that. My 12-year-old daughter just moved it.
Yeah, like, someone else moved it. Whatever. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And it just, like, keeps going and going.
I think like part of like what either like Blake was talking about with the voyeuristic nature of the shots, or like what you guys talking about, like how they just like constant disbelief. It has like basic like it grounds it in reality, right? This certain level of realism, and I think part of that has to do with William Friedkin's background in documentaries.
Oh yeah,
and then the whole film, like it is like it's shot. It's shot like as if it was a documentary. A lot of movement in cameras, like in how old 70s and 60s documentaries are made. Like, and what's called like little things like that where they just constantly ignore and just keep things going, or that whole extended sequence where she's visiting the doctors.
Yeah.
I love one of those shots too where she's laying on the bed and she's just looking down and the girl just looks so exhausted and defeated. And it's like, because this movie is also part like medical horror of the 70s, like as they're putting in the needle into her
dude,
neck.
that was so disgusting. I hate needles.
Yeah,
or
fuck that.
Or remember
the machine is fucking doing like a spiral down to her. And everything is so loud and in your face. Yeah, it's actually really scary.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
That's real. That takes you to a
Exactly.
place. That takes you to a place of childhood fear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a lot of people are still very nervous about going to the doctor because they don't want to deal with shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I've got this like back spasm and my fucking knee has been popping out for like 3 weeks, but like I don't want to go to the doctor.
I'll deal with it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
they're gonna
It's
stick a
fine.
needle in me or something. Like I don't want to deal with it.
Do you imagine how people didn't visit the doctor after The Exorcist came out? It's just like
No, there was a spike in like real world exorcisms. People were like, I think my cousin's possessed or like whatever because they were like, I don't want to go to the fucking doctor if I can just get an exorcism. That's way better.
Oh my god. Oh, Exorcist.
Yeah, but going back to how grounded the movie is, I love how the movie exhausts every possible explanation
Before
it's like, okay, now we need an exorcist. Like you really follow her journey down like this path of like, what the fuck am I gonna do about my daughter until the doctors are just like, I don't know, have an exorcism. Like,
exactly.
we don't know what's wrong with your daughter.
I don't know,
they're
you're
like-
fucked.
At this
And
point,
then-
psychologically, they're like, she'll probably just get out of it.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I love that scene where they're just like, I mean, it's not really because of the exorcism,
Yeah,
but,
but it might
they
help.
might
Yeah,
believe.
maybe. Like,
And then,
you ever heard of exorcism?
And then, you know what I really like is, and it actually directly contrasts the next movie we're going to talk about. I love that fucking scene where Father Damien goes to the church, and they're just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exorcist?
You're like, oh, man. You sure you're good to do it, though, bro?
Yeah.
Kind of struggling. And then they're just like, fuck it, call Max von Sydow.
We should probably talk about Father Damien, who is my favorite character in the
Who's-
movie.
Oh, yeah.
I would
He's
call him,
he's
he's
one of the
definitely the
best.
main character.
His whole struggle, his crisis of faith, the fact that this like starts off with not like they don't immediately they introduce like you know Max's character in the opening of like the actual exorcist priest, but they have Damien being like the main priest who's there and going along with everything.
I would call him, despite all the crazy shit going on, he's kind of the driving force of the movie. He's the one that really has a big arc, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I would definitely
yeah.
say he's the heart of the film. I agree.
Yeah,
with
he's
that.
not.
Yeah.
Because off the bat, we're seeing all the, the Exorcist shit, but we're also, all the, demonic possession shit. But a lot of the movie's dedicated to him. His struggle with his mom.
His crisis.
Just
of
how
his
faith.
crisis of
fucking
faith.
miserable his life is.
He's just like passing out, lit cigarette in his
Yeah.
mouth.
Oh, I love the grimy '70s like streets that he's walking through.
Yeah, because they're jumping on like abandoned cars.
Yeah,
There's
he's breaking the windshield,
there's
and he's just
graffiti everywhere.
and that one, what's it called? The homeless guy who's like, "Hey, father, do you want to give me some coin? I'm a former altar boy." And he just looks at him like,
It's like,
He's
he's
like,
disgusted.
fuck you.
I was like, I don't know, man. Like, fuck. And he's just so exhausted himself. Like, at just the beginning of the movie, he's like the opposite of the mom. He just comes in, like, already defeated.
Yeah.
He's like, my mom just died. And then he has to go in and do a fucking exorcism.
I really like, by the way, while we're still talking about Father Damien, I think it's another standout moment for me, is right when they're about to start the exorcism, there's this, like, real shot where it gets kind of close to him as the mom's peeking in and he just closes the door on her. It's kind of just like he's protecting her. He's just like, trust me,
Yeah,
stay the fuck out there. Yeah, I don't know. And that really is his character. He's kind of the unwilling hero in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
You
like
know what I mean?
world-weary protagonist.
Yeah.
I'm willing. That's
Yeah.
fun. It's great. It's great. I think definitely. I like. I know what's called. This is in the '70s where you had like kind of right before the '80s, which was like the embodiment of like the excess of the '80s. Which you had Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. You had the '70s protagonists, were just average-looking males. You know what I mean? And they're not, super buff or perfect looking or something. They're kind of rough around the edges. Super
He said he
flawed.
looked
He
like
runs like a
boxer.
weirdo. Like,
Yeah, he
He
does.
kind of looks like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah,
He does.
yeah. I mean, they put that right. They have
Yeah.
his whole boxing scene. They said, "You say you look like a boxer." Like he wasn't meant to be a priest, and it's just
Yeah.
like that weight has just been put on him his whole life. Like he's just like, yeah, I became a priest for
he
whatever
regrets
reason.
being a priest.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Like even
He
his
he definitely
fucking
regrets it
uncle.
at the end.
What an asshole
Yeah.
his uncle is. His uncle's like, if you were a real psychologist, your mom wouldn't be here right now. It's like,
Thanks.
thanks.
And then he's like, all right, go in there alone.
yeah,
Go face your
fuck
dying
that
husband."
guy, asshole uncle.
I love that scene transition too, where he's like talking to his dying mom, and then just the next scene is just him beating the shit out of the fucking boxing.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
I love the moment before he gets to his mom, where he's like walking through all the patients, and they're like grabbing at him, and he like gets visibly angry, and he's like, "Get off of me!" And then one of them steals his collar, and he doesn't even give a shit, and he's just like, "I just want to see my mom." Like,
Yeah.
it's really sad.
it's very sad, and then of course leads to his final sacrifice at the end of the movie when he jumps through the window and everything.
Take
and-
me, god damn it!
Yeah.
Yeah. Great scene, by the way. Apparently, the stuntman had to do that, like rolling down the stairs scene, like
Oh, yeah.
twice. I think.
Surprised the
Yeah.
director didn't make him actually jump out a window.
he didn't push out. The stuntman was like, "All right, 3, 2, 1," just fucking kicks him out.
Yeah,
That really sucks.
that's great fucking scene, great ending with his character.
Yeah.
specifically.
Oh, I love that scene. Is like it's quiet. It's suddenly like it's not very quiet. There's like lots of shit happening around him, but like it just slowly pushes in as his friend, the other father is like the deacon is trying to hold his hand, feeding him his last rites, and he just looks so heartbroken. He's like, God, this guy's whole life is just so fucking tragic. Yeah, this poor dude is dying with his head split open on the fucking concrete.
He was the guy who was giving him his last rites was actually a priest. There's a lot of real priests in this movie, which
Oh yeah, I believe.
I wouldn't have been able to tell. They give great performances.
Yeah, William Blatney, the writer or whatever, like he actually spent a lot of time in Georgetown, where the movie's set, and hanging out with priests and stuff. And he asked them like, hey, I want to write a movie about The Exorcist, and then they're like, okay, well, you have to like make it as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
And it feels very authentic. It's not like super over the top at all. Like it's like this feels like probably what would happen.
It is shocking.
And I'm glad that he wrote the screenplay for the film, right? Like he from the novel to this. This is pretty rare. Usually they hire outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely part of the success and why it works so well. They got the original vision.
Yeah, and then William Franklin apparently like he got the original screenplay and he just cut out a bunch of stuff and then put stuff in from the book that he was like, no, this stuff sucks. He's like, but put this in because this needs to be in there. This is from the book, and it, I don't know, it's just like it was that perfect blend of both of their visions kind of just combined into this like great film.
Yeah, it worked perfectly.
All right. Well, any final thoughts you guys have?
I do want to bring up a scene. So horror movies, I really like watching horror movies, but I feel like most things don't shock me. And of course they don't. We live in a fucking era where they just make the most horrific shit all the time. And it's just like, you could watch someone's fucking head getting chopped off and you're just like, whatever. I will say this, and I believe everyone knows what scene I'm about to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
The crucifix scene where she shoves across... I don't even want to say it. It's so vile.
The crucifix masturbation.
Crucifix masturbation scene was actually fucking shocking for me. Like, I was actually, like, taken aback and went, oh my god, it's actually horrifying.
We should mention this is Blake's first time watching it.
Yeah,
The rest of us have seen it before.
I've somehow gone my entire life, and I think, in a way, I've kind of avoided it just because it is one of those movies that just is so famous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is my first time watching it. And yeah, that was actually genuinely shocking, the crucifix masturbation scene. And then, like, she, gets her mom...
Puts her face
yeah,
in it, yeah.
Oh, God.
I was, like, actually taken back. I was like, oh my god, this is fucking horrifying.
Yeah,
that was one of the most horrifying movie scenes I've ever seen.
It's so off-putting. And the fact this came out in 1973.
And I cannot, like, believe that this was allowed to be released.
Yeah, people were, like, fainting, allegedly, and stuff.
People were pissed at this movie.
The Warner Brothers, they didn't think this film would succeed, right? Like, they actually just, like, put it in a couple of theaters, and they were like, okay, we hope this dies out. And they even had to, like, basically, there's rumors they bribed the MPAA. It's like, okay, let's make this rated R. Come on, here's, my big
Apparently, I heard that they said this is important and it has to be seen.
Some of them said that. There was a big debate against the executives on that, but then there was like internal battle. But they had to release this because William Friedkin, who just did The French Connection, he's a big name in Hollywood. You don't release this in film, he's never going to work for you again, and you don't want to lose that talent. And also William Peter Blatty, who knows what he'll write next. And they have contracts with the creators to release in theaters, so they did. But they're surprised that, oh shit, people actually like what we're watching it because of the shock value. Because at the 70s, like, shock value things were such a big thing. This is a time where porn was in theaters.
Oh, yeah. I think this is, like, again, it's pretty well narrated. I'm pretty well known at this point, but, like, it just changed, like, a lot of the direction of horror at the time. It was right before, I think it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 1974. Yeah. But, like, this was, like, really the introduction of new style of horror, where it was a lot of it was external horrors, before, like in the 50s it was like the big monsters, the Red Scare, and like the 60s and stuff. And then with movies like Psycho, which like changed the direction of horror too, this one like really internalized it. It was no longer like some other weirdo creep outside or even something else. This is like your own home. This is someone your family member becoming possessed, and it brings the horror inside.
I also wanted to say I think this is a super important movie too, because it's not just that, but it's also horror as drama, like taking like more of a dramatic movie and making it horror rather than like something like a slasher movie or like a monster movie. Like, I think a lot of modern day horror movies obviously have taken a lot of inspiration, like Hereditary and
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring.
The Witch.
The Witch. Yeah,
The Witch is fucking great though.
I gotta watch it.
So it's Hereditary.
It's a lot of those like again, like it was that big paradigm shift where it was like suddenly like they decided to put more money.
It's super important for film history. Yeah.
It really changed the direction. It's
yeah,
like horror
and it was
can really
like
say something more.
It was actually like a good movie. I feel like throughout film history, usually horror is like cheap, stupid, bad acting. But this movie is nearly fucking perfect on almost every level.
It was one of those films where it showed that, because like you can really, the problem is I think with a lot of studios and audiences too, they view horror as this like, oh yeah, it's meant to be cheap or cheesy or whatever, this is just what I expect out of horror.
Yeah, because you can make it so cheap and get such a huge return.
But but the thing is, you can make any genre cheap. You can have cheap drama, you can have cheap sci-fi, you can have cheap like whatever other
Cheap
genre.
sci-fi looks super bad in the modern era, though.
No, I mean, but there are ways to do sci-fi cheaply, or like, you know, kind of ground it more. Like, I think even like Black Mirror, like early Black Mirror did it really well. It's like, it's sci-fi, but it's like very grounded and like, you know, very low key.
Yeah.
And you can, the same thing with horror, you can do that too. It's just really what faith and what like actual work you're willing to put into it. And this is one of those cases where they actually decided to, you know, put more into it, and then like, oh, look, what happens? You made a good fucking movie. Like, it's just, you know, it's there. It just needs to be, you know, done. And I think horror is like, you know, benefited a lot from movies like The Exorcist, or, you know, Psycho that preceded it.
Or Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, Rosemary's Baby. I mean, after this, like, I mean, there's a movie like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was made by, you know, insane people. We're talking
Toby
about
Hoffer.
fucking William Friedkin. That movie, Texas Chainsaw, the original, it looks like it was just a bunch of crazy dudes out in the fucking, you know, in the South that were just, you know, shooting this crazy shit happening. It's great.
But that movie's it's great.
Yeah. You guys actually know that this film, speaking of film history, actually like killed blaxploitation films.
It really?
Yeah, because so like, you know, at the time, what's it called, like, yeah, like there was a film Dolomite is my name that kind of talked about this, but basically, you know, the studios just believe we would have to, in order to get the black demographic to watch their film, they would have to make blaxploitation films to cater to them. So that's why they were like, oh, Exorcist. They actually they were like, we're not going to screen this in like ethnically dominated communities. But then, you know, they were like, you know, the Asian black people were like, whoa, that sounds cool as fuck. And then they watched it, and as a result, they started putting it there, and they were like, wow, I guess we don't need to make a movie with black people in it anymore. Really, that was really the mindset that they had, and then that's what pretty much killed it. So it's like,
I mean, it's like, that's like good and bad,
Yeah.
where it's like, all right, we don't just have to hire black actors anymore.
Yeah.
That's like good. I mean, going back to like, I think right before, in the 60s, I think it was like 64 or something, when, what is it, Dawn of the Dead. No, not Dawn of the Dead.
Night of the
Night of the Living Dead. It had a black actor as like
As the lead, yeah.
which was like revolutionary at the time, and it doesn't really focus too much on the fact that he's just a black guy.
Yeah.
They he's just in there, and it's like, that's great. You don't need to like fucking pander and have him, you know, be like, it doesn't have to be super racial.
Yeah,
Which is great.
I remember watching that movie with my dad, Night of the Living Dead, and he's just like, yeah, like, this was nuts that like a black main character, and they didn't acknowledge that he was black, really. And I was just like, that blows my mind, because I was just watching this movie like it's a movie, and I didn't think of like the cultural impact of that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, at the time it was a revolution, and I think now we're kind of circling back where it's like there are more, obviously now, like there's more black actors just all over the place, and that's completely fine. That's great. That's great. We have representation in film, and we know we're circling back.
All right.
So wait, I think we forgot to mention one thing.
Oh my!
Okay.
What is it?
The music.
Oh,
yeah,
the
I-
music.
There's
Or
a
the
real-
sound design in
Yeah,
general.
sound.
Oh yes. I mean, the sound design for this film is fantastic
Your
all
mother
around.
sucks cocks in hell.
The music is
I'd
used
like to
so
point out-
sparingly.
I'd like to point out I've avoided The Exorcist my whole life, and I only knew two things: the obviously super fucking famous iconic images of the girl's face, and your mother sucks cocks in hell. And I always thought that was ridiculous, but in context, it's perfect.
Yeah, it makes complete sense because Father Damien's
Yeah,
his mother just died.
But yeah, so yeah, the fucking music's awesome, super atmospheric, kind of builds the kind of movie you're watching around it. I don't know. I think, you know,
Amazing theme song.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
Amazing.
And it's the thing too, is it's only used in one scene, very
Exactly.
subtly, as she's just like walking down. It's not scary or creepy at all. I didn't realize that when The Exorcist, the song actually came out first, the Tubular Bells. It's like this whole long track that completely deviates from like what most people think of it, like the original like little ding ding ding. Ooh, I can't do this. But you know what I'm saying.
For some reason, when I try to sing it, it either sounds like the dun 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 dun, like the Mortal Kombat theme song, or the one parody where it was like ding 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 ding. Like
Yeah. It's like it starts off like that, and then it turns into like this completely different wild track or whatever. But they only use like that opening like 10-15 seconds of it, and that's really all you need. And the music stuck out so well. But apparently when it was first released, it was like a pop sensation. People didn't think it was creepy at all. And then after the movie came out, they were like, oh my god, that's like one of the scariest songs I've ever heard. Especially here in America, when it actually blew up here after the movie.
well, what about your overall thoughts on the film, and you guys want to give your ratings?
I think this one probably goes into the shit bucket, honestly.
Obviously.
No, this one goes in the museum. It's one of those films like what it did to just films in general and horror and like what it just I don't know. It just changed a lot of the culture around like what people consider horror, and it's great. It's acting all around fantastic.
I'd say bargain bin. No, obviously I'm gonna give it museum. For all the reasons Ronald just mentioned. I really like the look of this movie. I love how it was shot. Like I can't say that enough. Like you said, the documentary style, but not just that. A lot of the framing is super cool. Like there's of course the shot we didn't even mention of the Father Damien and Max von Sydow like just sitting at opposite ends of each other on the staircase.
Oh yeah.
It's I don't know. I really like almost every creative decision they chose in this worked for me. And that usually doesn't work. I always respect creative decisions, but sometimes there's one or two where I'm like, I would have changed that. This is one where I think it's a perfect movie in a lot of ways. And that's pretty fucking rare. So yeah, gets the museum for everything Ron said and everything I just said.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It goes into a museum. After I've seen this movie probably 3 times in my life before this, and I watched it twice this week. And I think on last night when I was watching it again, it really just everything hit home for me in a way it hadn't previously, and it's now one of my favorite movies of all time. I fucking love this movie. It just feels like everything came together perfectly for it. Like, if you got a different writer, if you got a different director, if you got different actors, it wouldn't work nearly as well. I think everyone involved put everything they possibly could into it, and it really, really shows. Put it in a museum.
No, I agree with all the sentiments. Honestly, I watched this for the first time. I think like I watched bits and clips, but I watched it full time for like theatrical cut and the extended director's cut, or the cut you've never seen. I don't know why. With my girlfriend, we had the AC on, and that was particularly effective during the Exorcist scene. And then we were just like,
It's freezing.
yeah, freezing for the slow close. But yeah, it's preserved in the museum. Just like have there cemented. It's great, I think. All right, well, we're gonna take a quick break and a quick word from Reagan.
And we're back. Philip, will you please introduce our next film?
Hi, my name is Philip Changzu Lee. As you can tell, I am Korean.
Is that a Korean name?
It's like, oh yeah, well, my Korean name is Lee Jang-soo. We usually have our last names first, and then we say our first name afterwards. It's weird. We're a fucked up country.
Dude, I had no idea you were Korean. This whole
know.
time I thought I could have sworn you're like Irish or something.
You can tell the fact that like I have just like super small eyes. Super
I don't see race. I don't see race.
All right. So this what's it called The Wailing. The Korean title will be Koksong. Takes place in Koksong, which is a small little village in the southern region of South Korea. And it's about what's it called a bunch of strange incidents happen within this town where it's like people are getting murdered, and the people that do survive have strange incidents happen to them. And the center of this is Jonggo, who's a policeman, and his family, particularly, the other focus of the film is his daughter. And as this film, he's just trying to understand what is happening to his village and how can he stop it. But at the same time, his daughter is being affected by the same mess. And his number one suspect is this Japanese deacon who went to the village not too long ago. And we're trying to find out if that is, if he's the cause of it or just something else.
Is he a deacon?
Yeah.
Is
he really?
I didn't
Yeah,
catch
I
on to
didn't
that
catch
at all.
it. I knew the
priest,
The dude with
guy.
the collar was a deacon.
Or their version, or like their version of like a spiritual, like a spiritual monk or something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
They refer to him as a shaman at a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
well,
Which is
we'll
kind
get
of
into
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Like the Korean translation is kind of like sometimes some subtitles say deacon, some subtitles say shaman. It's like it could be interpreted either way.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
Okay.
Yeah, because you actually just kind of
Because-
confused me there for a second.
Yeah, they because they call the
priest guy.
the priest guy a deacon,
Yeah.
and then they call everyone else a shaman.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I assume it's a translation, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes it hard.
Yeah, and also, and actually, never. Actually, probably full spoilers ahead. Please watch this movie before we say it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's
if you,
great.
If you like
It's great.
horrific fucking movies, this is like made for you.
Yeah.
It's a
if
real
you-
downer.
If you want the most miserable 2.5 hours of your life, go for it. I will say this. If you're squeamish even a little bit about like anything horrific, definitely skip this one because it's pretty fucked up.
I think,
Or just watch it. Man
Or
up
just
and watch it.
I think immediately what comes to mind is like with the end of of The Exorcist. Apparently, the writer thought that like the original cut, people were interpreting it as like a sad ending or kind of too depressing. So he wanted to add in like an extra scene where like the surviving deacon is talking to the police officer, and it's like he wanted to make sure that it ends on a hopeful note. That is not the Wailing at all.
No,
It ends on a very tragic note, and it is all about like the humans
like perception of truth, or like their own, like how their perspective skews the
oh
truth.
yeah, and how it's just like we are victims of our own vices, and that's the big theme in this
choices,
film.
really.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because The Exorcist is all about like finding your faith. This movie is all about how our fucking panicked brains literally destroy us.
Oh yeah. That's one of the things I love about it. But
I think we'll have to have a whole like fucking section for just themes for this one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially like
but
yeah, like especially how like in some weird way, like because this is definitely like, I mean, the director Naung Jin, he's a big fan of American cinema, right? So, and obviously, The Exorcist is probably one of the films that you mentioned.
Yeah,
while watching
I
the
see
film.
some similarities for sure.
Yeah, and his changing of that, and like putting in Korean culture, and also like changing the tropes of it, particularly like the four main pillars, or at least from what I took apart from most of these possession films, which is like the possession, the turn, the ritual, and then the return to normalcy, if there is one. And his subversion of each one of those kind of like accentuates the themes, or like further highlights the identity of the film, which we'll kind of get into.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I definitely think we do. What's it called? When we get into the themes and like the differences between the two films, it'll be like a super meaty discussion.
yeah, I get kind of tired of all the exorcism movies. Not like literally The Exorcist, but like just a lot of movies that have a possession scene and an exorcism in them. There's just so fucking many of them. This is a very different take
oh yeah,
on the genre. Can we call exorcism movies
Or is it?
a
Oh yeah,
genre?
possession
Yeah.
horror.
Subgenre.
Possession
A
For
horror.
sure,
subgenre.
Yeah.
This is a very different take. And I would say it actually kind of explores several different genres. Philip informed us that this is actually a Korean filmmaking thing. This is just kind of how they like to make movies. Because all in one, this feels like a detective movie, a zombie movie, an exorcism movie, a family drama, and a movie.
A comedy.
A
as
comedy,
well.
yes. There's a lot of comedy in it, and I think it works because this movie's so fucking miserable. Kind of how
Yeah.
like most Yorgos Lanthimos movies are very funny because they have to be. Because God, how could they not be?
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of comedy, but yeah, this just feels like a real genre mash, but it works really, really well. Because I think if you didn't introduce this as a horror movie to someone, the first like 30 minutes they might not know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
like-
wish I didn't. Sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, go keep going.
I talk a lot. I kind of wish that I watched this not under the pretext that it's an exorcism movie. I wish I went in completely blind.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think, I mean, there's a lot of like staples of Korean horror. Like Korean horror has really become its own thing, and it's pretty awesome. I don't know, just from my experience, like the few films that I've watched, like the way that they genre mash and stuff, it works so well. Like it's very disarming at first. It's like you're enjoying yourself, and then they just like really shock you with like the horror, where it's like, holy shit, where did that come from? Like you just
Yeah.
don't expect it.
Like I wasn't certain I was watching the right movie. Like I was watching it and I was like laughing and having a good time. Like this is goofy and kind of fun.
And then,
And then
and then,
it takes this turn and I'm like, oh God, this is one of the most horrifying things.
almost at like the exact mid of the movie, right?
I think
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like, oh man, I think you can track the father, the main detective, the main character. I forgot his name.
His name is Jonggu.
Jonggu. His descent is so crucial to like the story, like the tone. He starts off, he's so pathetic.
Yeah.
He's so just like goofy.
He like
He's,
shows up late to work and
But
like
doesn't he say, "Oh, my mother"?
yeah, my mother-in-law is sick, and like he's fucking scared of everything, and he's just like this bumbling kind of moron.
When he saw the naked lady, oh
Yeah.
God, kids are
By the way, though, that scene was pretty fucking creepy. And normally
yeah.
shit like that, like, just makes me roll my eyes. Like, oh, there's a fucking person outside. That was actually really well done. I remember being like, oh, fuck, that's unsettling.
Yeah, and it's like you see him like starts off like that, like he's very disconnected from what's happening. Like he shows up to the first crime scene.
He doesn't
and-
even really care.
Yeah, he doesn't really care. This guy
He's like,
just
oh, I
murdered
gotta
his whole
go
family.
work. Someone died.
Yeah. He's like, someone died. Like, who died? Like, oh, I heard, the ginseng farmer. Yeah, he died. What? His wife. Oh my
He
god.
sees this guy that's like suffering from like what's almost severe leprosy. And he's like, oh, weird.
Yeah. He doesn't care, and then it becomes an internal conflict, which I think is like the real key to the possession stuff. Is that once his daughter becomes affected, everything changes for him.
Yeah.
He's like, holy shit! Now it's affecting him personally. You see his mind and his whole thing just completely unravel, where he's just like descending into this space where he just wants to cure his daughter. He wants to help her, and he just can't.
Yeah, his character definitely takes a turn.
Yeah. In a weird way, like he's a kind of like a selfish character, right? Like he only
He's
gets
not.
involved.
Yeah.
He's not a
Yeah,
likable
until-
character.
Yeah.
I think he's likable.
Okay, so
maybe because I'm Korean and biased.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't find him.
I thought he was great.
I think okay, so I think that he's sympathetic, but he's at the same time not likable. Like I sympathize with him. It's like, fuck, man, his daughter's getting possessed by Satan. Of course you don't want that. But at the same time, he's like this, he's kind of selfish, as Philip said. He's like a fucking bumbling idiot. But then the big thing for me is, I guess we'll just get into it. There's a dog fucking murdering scene in this and it's not just the fact that he murders a dog. So up until this point, he's more of a comedic character. And this is kind of the turn. This is the turning point of the movie for me, is when he goes to the Japanese man's house and he starts threatening him and he murders this man's dog. Kind of as a statement. And
To
he's
be
just like-
fair, he was
Yes,
the
he was
dog.
attacked.
The dog
He was
came
attacked.
at him.
He was attacked, but
Yeah.
he brutally murders this dog with like an axe. And then it's just
Off screen.
Yeah, off screen. Yeah.
okay, off screen.
but still, it's like you can't help but have that sinking feeling, because even when it's like it's charging at him, and there's a great scene where like the moment where like it's breaks loose and they're both just like, oh fuck, in like slow motion as they're running away from the dog. But when they revisit it, it's like it's just so horrifying, and I think that is like what you said, Blake. It is a crucial turning point in the film when it's like this is no longer like not even fun anymore. This is just like
miserable,
gut wrenching. Like fuck.
Okay, but it's not just he kills a dog. That's awful. But it's how he handles it after. He walks out and it's like this guy that is a fucking loser, and he's walking out and he's just like, I'll do the same thing to you. And it's just so like, oh man, like I don't know. I just find him very unlikable. He's just trying to act like I don't know. I don't know how to express this in words.
I think I get what you're saying, but also I feel like that was him attempting to like take control of his life and take control of the situation, and it
in an uncontrollable situation.
and also that guy was an asshole. He let his dog just get murdered right then and there. Like he could have called it off, but he just let it happen.
Well, that was probably part of the test, but we'll get into the.
We'll talk about like.
Yeah, that guy is actually someone very important.
That's why the whole deacon shaman, he's neither.
He's not. We might as well just explain it right now. Like he's
basically a demon.
He's a demon. He's a
demon,
physical little
manifestation,
like horns and like red eyes and shit. Like demon.
Dude, and he's actually fucking terrifying. Looking at
he's
the
so
end when he's
crazy.
got the claws and like.
Oh yeah.
Like, show me your true form.
I didn't think the first time I watched it. I watched it when it came out in theaters and stuff, and like I just didn't expect them to actually show him like his full form, because I think one of the things this movie does really well, it blurs the lines between like reality and dreams. Like there's a few nightmare sequences where they see this like the evil Japanese man like kind of coming towards them, right? And I think one of the things that the director said that he really focused on was the idea of a faraway evil like approaching you and just coming closer to you until it's like right on top of you and it's like breathing on you, and it's like, what do you do in that situation? How do you feel about that? And his like, so but they start off with like basically someone just talking about him, right? They're like, I saw this guy, and everyone's like brushes him off, like
Japanese man.
Yeah, like you're crazy, like you know. And I thought that was like they're going, because there's a lot of history between Korea and Japan, right?
Yeah, is this movie racist?
Yeah, no. For one of the reasons why he casted Jun Kinemura as the Japanese stranger / fucking demon. It's what's it called? It's because one, I think like as you mentioned, like we're always talking about the faraway evil and stuff like that. But he also wanted this evil to be both foreign but yet familiar, right? So Japanese is obviously it's not it's a foreigner to a Korean country, but at the same time we're close enough geographically, right? And we
Mhm.
don't look too dissimilar. So there's like that kind of mixture of both. And he's also playing with the fact of, our cultural history between the thing. It's like, especially from like, he's from the more countryside of the South. Like, he's actually really close. That place is actually really close to my hometown in Korea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. It's like kind of weird. I've been to that area.
You have any
before.
demons there?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
You see any Japanese guys?
taking
Fucked
pictures.
up.
But like it's but he's playing on that to kind of accentuate the themes of like trust and perception and our own bigotry and stuff like that. So
I also have a
yeah.
theory about that. Did the demon purposely choose to be like? Because okay, obviously he's got a fake form that he's putting on. He's a
Yeah.
fucking terrifying monster, but he looks like a Japanese man. Is that on purpose on the demon's part?
I think so.
Because a lot of this is, well, if we're going to get into themes, a lot of this is a test, right? They even say that, where he's essentially testing these people, and they all fucking fail. Because we're human, and we're flawed and terrible people.
Yeah, he just plays on all of our
So,
worst instincts.
to me, it would seem that he chose to be a foreigner, and specifically Japanese on purpose, to kind of instill a certain behavior and be like, are you going to react to this? Like it said, the first shot of this movie is him fishing, and because there's that theme that he's fishing. He doesn't really know what he's going to catch, but he's going to catch something.
Real quick, I love that because the opening shot is him like putting the worm on the hook, and then immediately we cut to the main character asleep in his home, and it's pouring rain, like he's underwater. I feel like that was a real good touch that the director put in there.
And later, the shaman brings up specifically, like, he's fishing, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, why is this happening to my daughter? Why is this happening to us? And he's like, he's not really doing it to your daughter necessarily. He's just putting the bait out there. Just just waiting for someone to clasp onto it. And whoever he does, that's who's going to get it. And it just happens to be this poor guy and his family and his daughter. No, I love that the way, like, 'cause the first time I watched it, I thought, like, they were going down the route of, like, this Japanese guy, and obviously there's that history there, so there's that uncertainty that just prevails through the entire movie, where you're, like, you're not sure at first, like, are they just being prejudiced towards this guy because he's Japanese, and he's
I thought
on the
that for a
outskirts?
good... Towards the end, there's kind of this movie gets really twisted.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah. No, by the end, like, they literally are like, no, it's not really him, like, he's actually, like, everyone's just, like, pretending that, like, or it's just, like, actually a fake out, like, he's not really the demon, he's actually just a good guy, he's just trying to help. And then you just don't know, and you're in the same shoes as the main character. Where you're like, I don't know who to believe.
I'd like to
What's
point out,
happening?
for someone, when you've watched as many fucking movies as us, you tend to just know the end of every movie. I had no fucking clue where it was going in the last 30 minutes, and I love that.
Yeah, I had no clue who to trust and what the character should do. Like, I was just sitting there like, I don't know what to do, man.
I would have failed the test if I was in his situation, probably.
Oh,
like,
Yeah, anyone would go to their daughter in that situation. But hey, before we get to that, I think we should talk about something else. I don't know.
Oh yeah, well, actually, let's talk about all the players on the board, right? So we have Jonggu, the police guy, and you have his daughter Hyojin, and she's the one who's getting possessed, right?
Yes.
She starts turning. She's both physically, mentally, and also like not just her, like other people who've been afflicted by like the curse. And main thing is houses burnt or like family members, loved ones killed, usually stabbed, and then there's usually this kind of plant, right? The shriveled plant left at like one of the crime scenes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then and if they do manage to survive, like one of the affected person, they usually become raving zombies, and and then if they're not killed, they they just basically explode pretty much internally, like their bones break or something.
Oh, that's another thing. I love the sound design of their bodies just being twisted and cracking and just breaking, and it's like it's not graphic at all. Like you just see like a slight bulging in like their body as like they're just twisting and shit, and you can just imagine all their internal organs just getting completely ravaged and their bones just busting.
Especially the one in the hospital.
Collarbone that like pops out,
super
and then oh god, that was honestly one of the worst.
Have I mentioned
in
that
the
body
movie.
horror really freaks me out? So you can imagine that this movie is like real test for
the
me.
dude's collarbone pops, and you see it like it doesn't break skin, but you see it pop up, and then he immediately starts spitting blood, and he has like an oxygen mask on, and it like fills up. It's so gross.
Yeah. It's just
Fun for the whole family.
There's that sense of unease.
It was a blockbuster in Korea. Like straight up, like if you convert it to essentially like if you converted like the proportion, it's like basically like their Avengers.
Oh,
Yeah, really. Like kids watch
Dude,
it.
Good for them.
It's a fucking great movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like there's that subtlety a lot like The Exorcist where he does kind of exhaust it. Where at first they're like, oh, it must be a medical phenomenon, right? They think that it's like these mushrooms or something that's like must have infected these people, right? They're like, yeah, it's these mushrooms, and at first they blow it off like it can't be that. This is like way too much. And then eventually he's like, check the mushrooms, and they're like, they take her to the doctor and they're running tests, and they're just like The Exorcist where they just don't know what it is. And then eventually he's like, fuck it, I'm getting a shaman. Like, I'm going to a shaman.
yeah.
That's the thing. The other player, let's mention the shaman, right? The shaman character they bring in, and you have a certain perception of him and stuff. And
Yeah.
He's a
whatever.
fucking douchebag.
Yeah. Well,
Which, of course, leads into the end. But
Yeah.
No, but like
I didn't like
that's
how
the
I-
thing. That's
He
it.
comes
That's
in with
the
a nice car.
misdirection that the movie
Yeah.
puts on you. Is like he shows up and he's a douchebag, but he actually seems like he's trying to help. So you don't really know how to feel about
I
him.
wouldn't say seems like he wants to help. I'd say it seems like he wants to profit from it.
Well, yeah, but he. The rituals that he does seem like they actually do
Yeah, they
something.
do.
Yeah.
Like it looks like what he's doing is actually making an impact on the situation.
Yeah, speaking of the profit part, like he literally comes in like a really nice like Korean car, and he's just like with the glasses and stuff all black.
he's dressed up all flashy, and he tells them, he's like, hey, this is gonna be expensive. Like,
Yeah.
you got to put in like 10 grand or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's like 10 grand, get it. He's like, okay, I'll get it.
Yeah, which is like different from The Exorcist, where they just show up and they're like, we're just here to help.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like I think a very subtle hint to the audience, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, this guy's literally just like, give me money, you know. And there's another subtle hint which I didn't catch the first time I watched it, but like when the shaman is changing, he's wearing the same
diaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Japanese
diaper
guy.
thing as the Japanese man in the woods. And at the time, I was just like, oh, maybe that's just
yeah,
a thing.
yeah,
Like,
that
I
might
don't
be
know.
a cultural thing. Like,
Yeah, but
We-
I like that again. Rewatching it, they have that whole scene where he's like he's wearing a diaper, and then he's like, yeah, well, I mean, a surprising amount of adults wear diapers. You know, surprising amount of adults are actually incompetent, or incontinent.
incontinent.
Yeah, And
Also incompetent.
So they try to like kind of cover it up, but it's also like very subtle.
It got
hint.
me. This fucking movie took me in directions I had no idea it was going to take.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Probably my biggest issue with the movie is like one specific scene. And I understand what it was trying to do, is trying to misdirect you in a way that a lot of the movie does. But it really like took me out of it once I realized what was going on, was when they show up, like that mob shows up to the Japanese man's house and they're going to kill him. Then the zombie shows up, but then they end up chasing the Japanese man away, and he is visibly terrified.
Oh yeah.
And why? Why?
I
Like,
believe
he's
full
literally
consequence.
immortal. He's a fucking demon. Like, he doesn't need to be terrified. Like, he breaks
That
his
yeah,
leg,
but that
and then he
is-
gets run over by a car, and like, I don't know. It didn't work for me because I knew at the end of the movie that he was in no danger whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you also have to think the last player that we haven't mentioned was the protector spirit, or the
Oh,
woman
the
in
girl.
yeah,
the
yeah,
woman in
no,
white.
I know.
the woman in white. Like, also the thing is, it's like, you know, not only because you know he still has a physical form, right? So he can still feel pain.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, like even if like so stuff like that happens, right? And also on top of that, he's already weakened earlier, like so,
By her.
Yeah, I'll tell.
yeah.
well,
We
the
should talk
ritual-
about the ritual scene.
Yeah. But then, like, he was already weakened by her earlier in the film, right? And it's probably the way I saw that scene is that one, he still feels the pain, right? He won't die, but he's still probably in a lot of physical pain. And number two, he's probably more like, fuck, like I'm this. On top of that, I almost like kind of like Ellen Person's character from The Exorcist, where she's like, oh, this shit's happening, but no, this shit's happening. It's like this
Yeah.
woman in white is like fucking me over, but on top of that, a bunch of fat Korean dudes are trying to beat the fuck out of
They're
me.
just chasing
Yeah.
him down. Yeah.
I get that, but
That angry mob
I
folk.
still. It still didn't. It just raised more questions for me than answers.
Yeah.
And like it really felt like the movie was cheating in a way, if that makes sense.
I could see that percent. I mean, for me,
I like
it didn't
Philip's
because
explanation
yeah.
a lot.
Because
Because I do kind of agree with you to an extent because that is the scene that makes you go, dude, they got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Like in that scene, you're like, they are literally destroying themselves by killing this man.
Yeah.
But I like Philip's explanation. That makes sense. Yeah, he
Yeah.
still does feel pain. He probably doesn't want the shit kicked out of him by a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a demon. Why is he crying? Fuck you, dude. Like,
Oh, demons don't cry. Well, I mean, no, I think like another thing interesting about this is like compared to we'll get into comparisons and stuff. It's like compared to like in The Exorcist, the demon, right? It's like it's very spiritual. It's ethereal. You don't really you see it through Regan's character, right? But this one is a physical fucking manifestation, right? He's there, and has feelings, has wants, has desires.
Yeah, that's
and stuff
true.
like that.
It's very different from The Exorcist, where there's no real physical manifestation, like you're saying, but like the shaman is a real guy, right? Like he's an actual dude that's there, that's fucking them all over. Even the spirit of the woman in white, which again, there's like subtle differences here and there, like when she's attacking the shaman at a certain point, like with the moths, like she's fucking with his head. It's like the use of moths was like subtle, because I feel like usually like playing off of like, I don't know, at least Western elements, usually it's like flies or like, like nasty creatures are attacking somebody. This one's like moths, and she's actually like somehow that's like more
moth is like more like seen as like a protector and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
usually they're more protective spirits, especially like like in fucking Godzilla or whatever.
Yeah,
Mothra and stuff, right? But I think even the use of her being a woman in white, that also like carries over like
the motherly figure of the
well, it's like in Western culture, like women in white are usually like these like spirits that are usually vengeful in some way. So I wasn't sure how that carries over into Korean culture. But like, so I was like, she could be evil, but then also she could not be evil.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
so I felt about every single person in this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
you really don't know who the fuck to trust.
yeah.
But also, yeah, I think that a big difference too is because he's a physical form, you kind of see his struggle a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like you see if you could visualize this as a tug of war of good and evil, since he's an actual body, you kind of see his struggle a little bit more, and that's part of it. Like, he's like, oh man, I got so much shit to do. I cannot get the shit beat out of me right now.
Yeah, this is probably like essentially like if you look at it, like he's almost like a second like protagonist. If you, I'd be so interested if they made like a version of the film from his perspective. Probably super fucked up. yeah. But it's like if he's a protagonist, or like this would essentially be the low point of the story for him, right? Like he's like, well, I don't know if my actual possession will succeed, right? This and my obstacles are fat Korean men, and the main thing is the
woman who was like basically stalking him in the woods.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It just felt like, they ran him over with the car, they threw him over the edge, and then at the end she said, the woman in white, she said, death can't touch him. And it's just like, well, then why the fuck was he scared? Why? Who cares? Like,
he's just probably afraid of failure, right? He's afraid he won't get his basically his next snack or next drink or something like that. That's like the way I see demons is like they only like really like anguish when they can't get what they want,
Yeah,
and essentially like he wants to just fuck, like he just wants like their soul, their deaths.
Yeah, I guess you could probably say the same thing about the Pazuzu in The Exorcist, right? Like he's not gonna die or anything. Like when Father Damien like jumps out the window and everything, like he's not dead,
but he'll fail his mission.
But he did fail. Yeah, his whole idea of corruption. But in this one, he still wins, like, which is something I actually do really like, because it does again kind of subvert that story, the idea of like, okay, here comes a shaman, he's gonna make things better, right? Like he's gonna help things, and then by the end it's like, no wait, he didn't. Like he's actually screwing, he made things worse, and it's like, but wait, no, he's actually is a good guy. I don't know. And I love the way that it really tests like it goes against all of your natural instincts. Like again, that final scene where the woman in white is telling him you can't go back until you hear three crows whatever, or three caws from the rooster, right? And then, but at the same time, he knows that something horrific is happening at home.
And he's on the phone with the shaman who's telling him, no, go home right now. And it's just like, I don't know who to trust.
In horror movies, we have the tendency to tell characters what to do. And this, I was like, oh, bro, you're on your own.
Yeah, no, really. It's like, it really puts you in that same position where you have no idea.
The last 30 minutes of this movie are as an actual nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like every person's instinct, every parent's instinct is to go home and want to like protect your family, and he has to go against that. And that's I don't know, I can't imagine being in a tougher position. And
literally his decision to go back home is, and one thing we call skewed perspectives of the truth, is because he sees that the protective spirit has like and items from some of the other victims,
Yeah.
and he thinks like, oh, it's and he in his skewed perspective, he's like, oh, she's the killer, right? She's like essentially like,
Oh, that worked on me too!
The thing that makes him go back is he sees his daughter's hairpin
Exactly,
on
yeah.
the ground.
Which is
And-
like, but at the same time, you see oh, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But you see the Japanese man has her shoe earlier too, so it's like
It's just like, who
yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Who done it?
Yeah, because when I saw the hairpin, that worked for me too, where I was also like, fuck, man, that's not a good sign.
And at first, it's like, okay, when they first go to the Japanese man's home, you see his buddy, the other cop, who also his story is so tragic.
Oh,
He ends up
yeah,
murdering
yeah.
his own mom, right?
yes, yeah,
He sees like all the photos of all the dead victims and what looks like a real satanic ritual like spot and stuff, but at the same time you see the shaman's ritual and it's like he's killing animals, he's like
Yeah.
spitting blood and shit. So
But-
it's like but he's a good guy, right? So like maybe he was actually trying to do good, but nope.
Yeah, no.
Nope.
I mean, the contrast between their two rituals, the only thing that I could differentiate was the shaman was killing white animals and the
the
Japanese man was
killing
killing black animals.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. You like instinctively think, okay, white good, black bad,
That might
or
be
dark
a cult-
bad.
Was that a cultural
Dark
difference,
bad.
Philip?
Oh, I mean, usually white.
Well, no,
yeah.
like in The Exorcist, there's the two dogs. One's white
Yeah,
and
that's
one's
true.
black.
Yeah. Oh, this is
But they're
more-
playing
yeah.
with that again. Like they're playing with those assumptions, which
Yeah.
is really cool because
Yeah.
One thing I gotta say, I really like that we actually see the demon go and like buy the chickens.
Yeah.
he goes to the store.
Because he still has to respect like the rules of like
Yeah.
the physical world. Right?
Yeah.
You see him like in line, and he's like, "Oh man, this guy's taking a long time. I got some,
Like,
I gotta get home by the hour of the dog. Like,
Yeah, he's
I
on
got
the-
some crazy shit I gotta do."
I like him riding the bus, and all the other people are looking at him like all
the
weird
fuck?
and like they're like disgusted by him. And again, you don't know because there's like, okay, well, is he just getting shit on because he's an outsider and he's kind of weird, or is
Mhm.
he an actual evil presence that like you don't know?
They're like, "I wonder if that guy's about to go and fucking do some weird ritual."
Yeah. I also I just want to touch like on nature being like a big theme in this. There's a lot of
Before you move on to this is Miles here. I do have a question about the ritual scene.
Okay. Okay.
So during the ritual scene, after they're both almost completed with their ritual, it does look like the Korean shaman guy was successful because the Japanese dude ends up basically passing out and it looks like he's dying. So what was that about? So was he actually trying to kill the
Well-
Japanese man?
Well, no. Actually, like the way I interpret it is, no, he's actually just trying to inflict more pain on Hyojin, the daughter.
Yeah.
And number two, actually, like the director said in an interview, where it actually doesn't happen at the same time. Well, the Japanese guy's ritual and this ritual, he just edited them together to confuse the viewers purposely, right? To make them think
well,
like
good
it's
job.
happening at the same time.
Misdirection.
But-
I thought it was the woman in white was casting
The woman in white was harming the Japanese.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like he's lying down on his front porch, like he nearly dies, and he like wakes up and he looks out and he sees her, and she's just like, "What, bitch?" Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because you get the impression like because he's doing the ritual and it looks like it's working, right? Because that's the intention of the scene. Like he's hammering in the spikes inside of like the wooden effigy, and at the same time you see the girl in pain and you see the Japanese man in pain. So you just
It's
associate like okay, so
both are getting taken down.
yeah, she's hurting the demon creature that's inside of her, which is the Japanese guy. He's like doing a spell, but at the same time, at the end of that scene, you see the Japanese man like laying in pain or whatever, and then you see the woman in white step into the area, and she's like looks at him like, "Ah, fuck," like she's like, "Dang, like
Yeah.
I didn't quite get you," but. You don't really understand that until the very end,
Yeah.
because like it's like, oh, okay, she was actually trying to take him down. At the same time, this is happening, or she's trying to prevent him from completing his side of the ritual, while the girl is trying to fight back, and the other shaman is obviously trying to weaken the girl more.
To add
Mhm.
fuel into the confusion, that also made me think the shaman, or that maybe this was the good guy, because it's like he's getting hurt, which is also hurting the daughter. So that confused me in a way towards the end, where I'm like, oh shit, yeah, maybe like he's actually fighting the good fight, and we're fucking up his thing with
Yeah.
the shot.
And
yeah,
it was good.
And even
It was great.
even like the father doesn't let the ritual be completed because he's doing
Yeah.
it. He's doing it like it's going, and the girl's clearly in pain, and the girl starts screaming, "Stop him! Stop him! Like don't let him like do it, right?" Because she's in pain, and then he freaks out and he smashes the altar. He stops the whole ritual, and when you're watching it, you're like, "No,
Yeah.
dude!" But you understand his idea because his daughter's obviously she's suffering. She looks like she's in serious
Yeah,
pain.
was it the demon speaking through her, or was it her?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And
And-
again, if you're going back to The Exorcist, it's like Reagan is screaming in pain. Well, you hear the demon's voice, but like you're just think like, okay, well maybe the demon's just speaking through her again. So you expect The Exorcist to be the ritual to be like an actual painful moment for the girl.
this movie's
But
very
yeah.
well written to make you just have no fucking clue what's going on.
Oh yeah.
And to
Yeah.
just
Tons
be
of
like,
misdirection.
yeah, to just be like, I don't know what to do, man. You got to figure this shit out.
Like the only way you kind of even know if who was right, and I actually think that's why I think like from like what's it called if you were a foreigner, you're not super engrossed in like the Korean culture. This probably works the best for you because like in Korean in folk culture or we do have a folklore where it's like there is a protective spirit in every town, and usually it's in the form of a woman in white. What's it called? But I'm glad that they didn't say that because sometimes like films they will have like a little black screen and they text in the beginning.
Oh
Yeah, if they did that, that would have ruined like the suspense.
Oh well, it
Yeah.
starts off with a Bible quote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I forget what's the
It's
quote.
something
Yeah,
along-
the version I watched though didn't have the subtitles for
Oh.
the fucking like Bible quote.
It's,
So it was just Korean like lettering on the screen, and I was like, "What is that saying?"
it's
See, you
what
should have
it's-
learned Korean for this movie.
Yeah.
It's what
You
the
should,
it's what the demon says at the end. It's the touch my skin and see that I have like flesh, and you'll see that I have bones. I am no ghost. I'm butchering
Okay.
the fuck out of that, but
Yeah,
that's more.
but
or
it's
less what it
basically
was.
when Christ returns to Earth, right?
Jesus.
And he has that question of faith, right? Because they're like, you must be a ghost or a spirit, and he's like, no, feel me, I am physical, I am real. But again, they subvert that.
Yeah, this
where
is like a misdirection.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, so he's physical, he can't be a spirit or a demon. It's like, nope, he is.
Yeah, but there's a physical manifest-
he is a physical manifestation of evil, and it's just like, yeah, it fucks them.
Something we didn't mention that I kind of want to talk about. I really like the deacon character, not the Japanese man, but the young
the Korean
kid-
deacon,
Oh,
who's
yeah,
yeah,
the young priest. I really like him. He doesn't do too much, but I don't know. I like him in the
Yeah,
whole
he's
movie. I in almost every scene, I really find myself just kind of focusing on him. Like there's the first scene where he's like, "We're gonna go to his house and scare the shit out of him," and he's like, "Bro, you sure that's a good idea?"
Yeah,
Or like
right?
later on, I think they go back one more. Oh, with the angry mob, he's like, "We got to go there and kill him," and he just has this look on his face where it's like, why are you dragging me
Yeah.
into all of this? And then, of course, he has this big scene at the end where he goes to confront him, and he calls him literally, he calls him the devil. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Show me your true form." And he's got the
sickle.
sickle, and I feel for him, man. He didn't deserve this.
Oh no,
No,
he didn't.
yeah.
He didn't do anything to deserve it. I mean,
He
oh, by
was
the way-
there to actually exercise his faith, to be like, "I'm going to defeat you with like my beliefs alone."
Oh,
and he
it
just
doesn't stop.
he was no match.
I mean, it was
Man,
way
man,
over
he,
his
he
head.
gets the fucking shit into the stick this whole movie. He gets dragged into this. His face gets bitten off by like a zombie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love the scene where it's the same scene where he kills the dog, and like he's having this deacon like translate for him. He's like, translate everything I fucking say, and he's just like cursing at him. The deacon's like, just please answer.
Yeah. He's like, tell him if he's like doesn't get out of my fucking town, I'm gonna kill him just like I killed this fucking dog. And he's like, like I love that scene too because like you can see the deacon really struggling. He's like, all right, we're gonna go there. Yeah, we're gonna scare the shit out of him. We're gonna get him out of here or whatever. And then the moment when he kills the dog, you see the deacon like he's really like the what is it like.
the moral center.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's for the audience where it's like you're watching him kill his dog and you feel shitty. Like even if this guy's guilty, you don't feel good about him killing this dog.
Yeah.
And as he kills him, he sees the look of shock on his face, like, oh my god, like you just did that. And like at the same time in the back of my head, I'm like, if this is some evil spirit demon guy that's torturing your daughter, you really want to kill his dog?
Yeah,
man?
my rationale was like, "Oh man, does that seem like a good idea?
yeah.
No,
You want to
he's very
kill the
emotional
dog?
and angry.
You want to kill the devil's dog?
Yeah.
You don't kill dogs, man." Like Jason was bringing this up earlier.
It's like that
that's the
toxic
classic film
masculinity.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
the
touch
trope.
on that film. Right.
You don't kill
Yeah.
dogs, man.
I think okay. So do you guys want to move into the themes of this movie?
Yeah.
But
let's-
real quick on the Japanese speaking deacon, like his name is ridiculous too. Like what's it called Yang Isam. So
yeah,
he-
they mentioned that. He's like, that's your real name? I didn't get that joke.
So, like what's it called Koreans, we have a weird way to say our numbers. We have one way to say it was like hana dur se, which is 1 2 3. But then another way to say is il, which is 1, I, which is 2, and sam, which is 3. His name is Yang Isam, so Yang 2 3.
I don't get it.
Like
Don't know what
his
that
name. So his name is Yang Isam. I means 2 in Korean. Sam means 3.
Oh, it's literally numbers.
Yeah. No, it's literally
Okay.
2. Like Yang 2 3. They're like, that's really your fucking name. It's just like,
That's
or they
funny.
kind of like highlighting, incompetent fucking dickhead. But yeah. So I mean, yeah. Do you guys want to like kind of like the things? Do you guys like get into themes and kind of compare the Exorcist and the Wailing, right? And to see how like what that kind of reveals like thematically about the film, because a lot of this is about the subversion of the possession horror tropes.
Yeah.
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 So I mean, like.
Sorry.
Oh, it's like so one of like the main things I take away from most of these possession horror films, or from my research, and whoever does possession horror has better fragmentation of this. Just shoot me up and kill me. But it's like there's the possession, right? Like the initial possession of the victim. There's the turn, whether they turn mentally, physically, spiritually. The ritual to try to get rid of the actual possession. And then return to normalcy, whether or not it succeeded. So in this one, I think it like kind of like basically it's like it's almost as if it's like the anti-Exorcist in some ways, right? Where it's like in the Exorcist, it's very clear what's probably like what's like who possesses Reagan and how she got possessed, like with a method, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the Ouija board and like we know it's like the demon spirit. And it's very cut and cry.
Yeah, who does she say she's playing the Ouija
Mr.
board?
Howdy.
Mr. Howdy.
Howdy, yeah.
Mr. Howdy. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Howdy.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's a subversion of themes. It takes like because there are like a billion other Exorcist copycats and possession movies that have come out. So it's all basically the same thing where it's like, all right, some person is possessed and then they like exorcise it and that's it. And this is again,
Not that.
it takes advantage of that like prior knowledge of like of what you expect and just flips it on you, but not
it just suddenly happens, right? Like the daughter, like she it just. I mean, the turn isn't sudden, right? But she just becomes like possessed, like that. Like you don't really see like the cause of it, right?
Yeah, I mean they do subtly have her like
there's
acting
a buildup
normally.
of her.
Yeah.
You see her like getting just angry out of nowhere, and I really love the scene. I mean, if we're gonna talk about if we want to move into like our standout moments, I love the moment where he sneaks into her bedroom because he knows something's off with her, right? Because we see how she is at first, and then she just is like angry and like cursing at him, and he's like he just doesn't know how to react to it. He's just like, what the fuck? And then he starts going through her notes. He's flipping through it and he sees like it just kind of devolving into like this really fucked up drawings and like sketches and like scribblings, and then she actually has a drawing of the Japanese man eating the deer carcass, which they allude to a few times, and it's it's so creepy. And then she's laying right next to him, and I'm just like, dude, she's gonna wake up. She's gonna wake up, dude. That's really scary. Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments in the movie.
That was good. The other one where she was like, remember she was like calling her dad a pervert. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same scene.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because
like,
he's
later.
examining her. He wants to make sure because he knows that like the rash or the like
boils or whatever.
it is a symptom of it. So he'll just like looking. He pulls up her nightgown a little bit to see, and of course he sees the rash. And she wakes up, and
I don't
she's
think
just
she
like,
wakes
"Are
up. I think she was awake.
Okay,
Yeah.
Either way, she addresses the situation, and she's like, "You're hiking up your daughter's skirt in the middle of the night," and he's just like, "Whoa, no, it's not like that."
I think she literally says, "Explain yourself," right?
Yeah,
She's like, "Explain yourself," and then he's like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
Her creepy demeanor is it's great.
she was fucking great.
All
Yeah.
of
in
the
movie.
actors are fucking great. In this.
Yeah, every performance is.
Dude, the dad really sells those like fuck scenes where he's just like holding her and just being like, "I have to save you."
Oh
like,
yeah.
Oh man, real emotional.
Okay,
stuff.
it's that same thing when he's like he's just breaking down after they think the Japanese man got away, and he's just he's like, I have to save my daughter. Like that frantic feeling of a parent trying to help their kid and they just can't. And he just like, he doesn't know what to do. And he just turns to violence and anger. And then going back to the themes, like there's like just those, like, it's just, it's like those very human feelings of like desperation and like anxiety and angst that just like perforate the whole movie. And it's just by the end you sympathize with him so much because he just doesn't know what to do, and he's kind of this incompetent cop who's just is way out of his league. This is all just way over his head, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to deal with it, so he just immediately turns to anger, which is what this like very human thing to do.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get into themes, I actually want to talk about one of the themes I found. I don't think it's the main theme, but because I'd say in The Exorcist, the main theme is goodness and faith, like, will prevail. For The Wailing, I kind of, there's a lot of themes. There's like 15 million of them, and I'm sure we'll discuss them all. But one I found that was kind of interesting is I think that a huge theme in it is just that, I'm going to word this poorly, but shit happens. Like, horrible, awful things happen, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's almost like Coen Brothers-esque, where in like, you know, every one of their films, the universe is random and the shit's happened.
Yeah,
and just reacting to it.
Yeah,
this way it's
it just
like,
happens for no reason.
Or we could even compare it to a movie we just talked about, although a very different take on it. Under the Silver Lake, we're trying to find meaning in things, where sometimes there just is no meaning.
Yeah. I think one of the themes I really like is. Like I was saying before, I was trying to get to like nature. There's a lot of things that allude to nature, and I think that the setting, this like town that is like in this remote kind of mountainous area, you see like lots of exterior shots of these beautiful mountains and the sunsets and at night and everything. And there's like this the sense of like this very pure place, this kind of Garden of Eden, right? And then it's just all these sins that are just living there, right? There's lust, anger, pride, the other ones
Sloth.
I can't remember. Sloth. Oh yeah, sloth.
The other ones.
Gluttony, like, you know, he's always like munching
He's
down.
always eating.
He's always eating.
His daughter is, and near the end, she's just like fucking shoving her face.
Oh
full
yeah,
of
she
food.
just, and her parents or the mom and the grandma are just watching her, just in horror, and she's like just cleans out the fridge. Like, but yeah, like, and it's just like this evil just enters into that space and just, you know, just it desecrates the whole place. Also, I feel like the set design and everything is done really well. Like the walls of this town, it makes it feel like a labyrinth. You're not exactly sure where everything is adjacent to everything else, but it feels like you could totally walk down that town road and just completely lose yourself at like just one wrong turn. And I don't know, I think that just worked really well.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of it is true. It works well. That's why I think Korean towns are like just work so well for horror films, because they do have the labyrinthian feel. Or even for serial killer films, like remember I Saw the Devil, like it's in a somewhat similar style.
I never finished watching I Saw the Devil. I gotta watch that one.
That movie's great.
Yeah, it's like,
we gotta talk about that one in the future.
Yes,
a serial killer.
They're just whole Korean horror. Really, I've grown to be a very big fan of the style. I think it's dope.
They don't give a fuck.
No, they really don't. They're just like, yeah, we'll kill a dog.
It's like it is interesting. Like from the set side, it's like everything is emblematic of like the search for truth, right? And then the labyrinth nature of like talking about the set is like it's similar to, it's symbolic of their labyrinth nature of their search for the truth. It's like their left turn, they get lost. They go right turn. It's like investigating the woman in white. They don't know. They could try to investigate the shaman. They don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's interesting, and like in comparison to like The Exorcist, right? It's like the difference in like just by showing the possession and the possession in turn, right? The turn is somewhat similar, right? But then one is definitely in The Exorcist, Reagan is like her physical and mental turn is like way more obvious and way more unnatural. Even though it's grounded in realism, the way The Wailing does it is probably like makes it even more it makes it even more realistic, right? Because honestly, like from an outsider's perspective, it could just be like a rash, or she's just acting out, or like in a very weird way, right? There's something, you know, psychologically wrong with her, but not necessarily spiritually.
Yeah.
But that kind of adds to the, you know, the themes of like distortion of truth, right?
Yeah.
And the differences of the two. And it's like, you know, like with The Exorcist, it's like the whole, like for The Exorcist, like when they're trying to get to it, right? It's more about the method, right? It's like the method of trying to get rid of the thing. It's like denial of truth. But while the Wailing is just like, we know what it is, but we just don't know how to do it, right? Yeah, it's just like
you just don't know how to deal with it. Again,
Exactly.
that hopeless, that frantic feeling. I like that. There's again, the nature is a big thing about it. The rain adds a lot to like the like the sense of this whole town. That one guy gets struck by lightning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up. They go up there searching for the Japanese man's house, and like they find the deer that he was like munching on, earlier. And they're like, oh shit, like this is where that deer was. This is exactly where I was. His house can't be far. And then immediately it starts like pouring rain. And then that guy was just like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And then he immediately gets struck by lightning. Like it's almost like they were just trapped in a little bubble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's working against them, right? Like
Yeah.
whether it's like the actual players on the board, the shaman, the woman in white, the what's it called, the Japanese demon, or their own vices, or nature.
There's the black dog being with the guy. I like that just symbolism of like there's often obviously dogs guarding the gates of hell and stuff in Hades, and black dogs are often used in Western culture too, just to represent evil. So it being there was like cool, but then even when they kill it, it's like, oh, it still feels bad.
Yeah.
The crows that are around that eventually are eating the dog, that they're just like always around. They're just like every time there's
crows
death.
are everywhere in this movie.
Yeah, eventually
they're in the soy sauce.
Yeah, like when
Yeah.
he busts open the pot and he's like, oh, there it is. That's like this sign of evil, and there's just a dead crow inside their soy sauce. They're like, oh shit.
What do you guys feel about, like, it's for the Exorcist, the climax is the ritual, right? Yeah, that's like the end point of the film. But for the Wailing, the ritual is actually the midpoint, and there's even like a mini ritual at the end. Like, what do you think that does for the film, like in terms of like displaying of the themes, or how the subversion of that specific trope? But usually the ritual is the climax of the film, but instead this one is the midpoint.
I just think it works better for the structure of this specific movie, The Wailing, because it really is more of a mystery thing than it is traditional horror. So I don't know. I just think it makes more sense on a story structure for it to be in the middle. But it is kind of cool, because I think when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is something you would expect at the end. And it's a good subversion of what you expect, because there's 100 fucking exorcism movies. And in this one, it happens in the fucking mid. And then the movie goes on for an hour and a half.
And he stops it too.
Well, also that wasn't an actual attempt to save his daughter, right? So you could argue that wasn't the actual ritual that should be the climax. The climax of the movie, where his daughter could really potentially be saved, is the end when he's talking to the woman in white.
In a way,
and
there is
she
no
sets it
exorcism.
up for him perfectly. Like, if you listen to me, your daughter will be saved. And again, like, he rejected the evil ritual, so to speak, and then he also rejected the good ritual.
Yeah,
like,
and it's interesting that they don't really show that one. They show the midpoint ritual to its fullest degree visually. Yeah, but then the end, the good ritual, with the one he rejects, it happens off screen. Yep. Like, and the only thing you see is the end of it, the failure.
Yeah, there's like subtly or earlier in the film they show that those same hanging herbs or whatever, like those flowers that are hanging above one of the houses.
When he walks past it.
Yeah, it's like rotten in the first house that he goes to, where someone was like already brutally murdered, and you're just like, it looks kind of evil because it's like dried up, and the little flowers,
they kind of look like skulls.
Yeah, they look like skulls. They look like wailing faces. Dare I say? And it's like, oh, that must be like a bad thing, right? It's like, but again, they show later, and there's like bright white, like nice little looking flowers, and then they just they wilt away immediately as soon as he breaks the ritual by entering his home, and they turn into like these like skull looking creepy faces, and it's like, oh no.
One thing I noticed, like, okay, so who do you think the shaman is? Do you think he's a demon? Do you think he's a human? Because
I think he's a human. I think he is a human, but she just what's it called? She just chooses to subscribe to.
I don't know if I have a definite answer, because I've been debating that in my head.
Well, on my second rewatch, the first time he shows up to the house, the shaman, he like observes the gate entrance, He kind of like looks up, he looks down, he like feels the earth, and then he decides it's safe to walk in. And then at the end, when she's saying the demon is coming, if you go now, you'll ruin the ritual, and the demon will be allowed to go through.
He's the one that's coming.
Yeah.
Is
So
it possible he's just an extension of the other demon, maybe?
that is
No,
possible.
I think
but
he's just like a human help, right? Like just like how like in film, like what's called, like we just like Hereditary recently. Like there are like humans that help with like like the demon's goals or something. They do need like some help on like the human physical world. And because he actually has like a name, right? That's like the big thing. Like his name is Ilguang, which is like, and then he has like a birth and time and place in this world. And he actually has like what's it called? His face is on the newspaper and stuff.
They do give him, or not. Sorry, not the shaman, but they give like the Japanese man like a kind of backstory. They're like he may have been human a long time ago, and he has those those like photos in his home that look like very old Japanese photos, like from a long time ago, right?
yeah,
And
they
it's-
really focus in on it at one point. And
Yeah, and it's
I
like,
don't
oh,
know who
was-
those people
Yeah,
are.
yeah, that's a
It's
cultural
like
thing.
was that
you
his
probably missed.
was that his like former body? Is that like his former family or something?
Mm.
You don't know, and it doesn't really quite make sense. But then later, it's like, oh, he could have been like this former.
Good
Yeah.
guy.
Could have been a guy, that just died or for whatever reason, and then he just became this like evil spirit.
Yeah.
Well, also,
And
is
he
it,
doesn't
is this,
have a name.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't give him a name.
but also, is this even, was this guy like possessed too? Like maybe this guy is also, he was just a regular human at one point, and then the fucking demon took over his body. Like, it's hard to say.
That could be the case. That could be the case.
This movie leaves a lot to speculate, which I
Yeah.
like. You could just talk about it for hours.
Yeah. Do you guys know the original ending is actually where they actually go one step further, which I'm glad they didn't include, which was like the Japanese guy like tries to lure another Korean kid with like sweets. He's like, "You're my next victim." but then the Korean mom was like, "Whoa, get the fuck away from this creepy guy." And he's like, "Oh shit!" And then the shaman comes. They get in the car together. They look at each other for a while, like eye fucking, and then they drive off. And then there's so many and thens in this.
and
The
then-
woman in white comes and just looks at them like, oh, next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad they
this-
didn't do that.
This movie, really quick to recap, you could say that it's
So back on the topic of the woman in white and the ritual that he refused at the end. Actually, earlier in the film, towards the beginning, somebody mentioned that the reason that it happened to one of the families that it happened to was because they didn't listen to that lady and didn't follow through with her ritual. Now,
Okay.
that was kind of a throwaway line there, but coming back to it at the end, I was like, oh shit. Like,
Well,
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah.
thing. Is like rumors and like superstition that's just permeating this whole town. Like no one knows. Like, oh yeah, I heard the Japanese guy was eating a dead deer, and he like
Yeah.
came towards me, and then they're literally just like, that guy's crazy. Don't fucking listen
Yeah.
to that guy.
But also there are some similarities, right? Like they find that little like nest looking thing
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
in the farmhouse in the beginning, and that is the exact type of nest that they make for his daughter during the ritual scene.
Yeah.
So like clearly this is like an ongoing like
And that's
repetitive process.
That's exactly what I was going to say before Miles cut me off. I'm just kidding.
Damn
I'm
it,
just
Miles.
kidding. You're out.
I'm sorry, I had to bring it
I'm
up.
just
I
kidding.
was waiting for a second to interject. I'm
just
sorry.
kidding. I was going to say, so essentially this movie is, I hate to compare everything to Lost, but
Fuck
it's
you.
essentially, like in Lost, it's an almost an eternal game played between different entities that are both kind of testing humanity.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's like
You were kind of looked like you were doubting me and then agreed with me.
yeah, I think that like they I like the way that they put all the power within the human's hands, right?
Yeah.
That they're like, this is really up to you. Like you can make this okay, or you can either fix this or you can fuck it up. And but again, it plays off of those natural instincts where it's like how am I not gonna go back to my house right now?
Yeah.
How am I not gonna do this? Or this is clearly hurting my daughter. I gotta like help her, but you don't know.
Yeah,
This is
and also like the woman in white in that scene is being a
Ominous
little
as fuck.
cryptic. Like,
Yeah.
come on, give him a little bit more. Like, let him know. But that's the misdirection that the movie wants to throw at you in that
Yeah, it's just this like terrifying, helpless situation where who the fuck do you put your trust in? Because
Because everyone's fucking crazy and like no one makes sense.
because everyone is terrifying.
All right. Well, overall, speaking after like an hour of talking about how crazy Korean people are, what are you guys' overall opinions of this film, and what rating would you guys give this? And how do you guys feel about this compared to The Exorcist? I'll be looking at you.
Okay, so personally, I feel like this one would definitely go up on the shelf. I'd get like if a Criterion version of this comes out, I would love to buy it. I would definitely want to own this. I want to own this film for sure. I don't know if it goes in the museum just yet. I think time is like the best judge. I think returning to this film in a couple years, I think it most definitely has a potential to go into like the museum, but we'll see.
I agree. It's funny. Earlier, I was like, after just watching it, I was like, it'll probably go on the shelf, but I'm not sure. But now I'm like, this is going on the shelf. This is definitely a movie you sleep on. This is definitely something that you like the more you think about it. It's just this fucking crazy nightmare, miserable experience. And it's great. And there's a lot of themes, and fuck, we couldn't even cover them all. There's just so much to unpack in it. And that always leaves me feeling good. And I will say this. If you like genuinely fucking horrifying movies, this is for you, and I'm putting it on the shelf.
Yeah, I would agree. I would put it on the shelf. I mean, it's real close to going into a museum for me because I really liked it. But there are a couple of things that I think I talked about that really didn't work for me. Namely, why is a demon so sad and scared? It was dumb to me, and it was misdirection that it felt cheap to me. But other than that, really good. Really well shot. We didn't even get into the cinematography, but it looks fucking amazing.
It's gorgeous.
That ritual scene and the music going on during that ritual scene was so fucking good.
I love the shot of like the girl while they're doing the ritual, the fire just raging behind her. As, like he's like just like you think that he's trying to cast the demon out, and she's just like roaring at him while the
and then
drums
all the
are
percussion going. That is one of the best scenes I've seen in a movie in a very long time. Real close to being in a museum, but I do have some issues with it, so putting it on the shelf.
The movie's a goddamn nightmare in the best way possible.
I just put the cinematographer name, so if you guys want to shout out to cinematographer Hong Kyung-pyo. I think it's funny because I'm seeing like the American way to translate your name. I don't see actual Korean name. I'm sorry for the guy.
I'll let you translate or say that name. I don't want to butcher it, but definitely
shout out to him.
Yeah,
sure.
Great job, man.
Beautiful, gorgeous film.
It's fantastic. The whole Gardens of Eden, like there's so many like just fantastically framed shots and just well done.
All right. Well,
so
what's your rating?
Because
you already said. Oh wait, my rating. By the way. Fuck you guys. This is in the museum. What's it called? And that's it.
And because nobody else will say it, I would put this movie in the shit bucket.
No!
So wrong.
Okay, you have exactly 2 minutes to explain yourself.
Okay, so the music, beautiful. The cinematography, beautiful. Set design, beautiful. Makeup, beautiful. Acting, except for the daughter, terrible.
You were so fucking
terrible.
How the fuck could you possibly believe that?
I did not believe Fear for any second. Like literally, I
like
watched
Koreans.
this movie and I was sitting there and I was like, oh, when's the horror coming?
Are you fucking kidding me?
I saw a lot of gore. I
You
saw a
see
lot of
the
gore,
literal-
but there was no horror in it.
The scene?
This movie is emotionally crippling.
Yeah.
No, it had none of that.
What is the last line? He's like, "Don't worry,
Daddy
Daddy
will
will
protect
protect you." And it's like,
Oh,
no,
God, and they're
Daddy
on a
did
ride.
not protect you.
How is that not horrifying?
This movie is soul
Again,
crushing.
in the opposite of The Exorcist, where it's like they are able to save this little girl from this unspeakable evil. They failed. He fails as a father, and it's so apt because again the guy we
fails
see
at every moment of this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
every time where he has the option to make the right choice, he doesn't.
Okay, and beyond emotional horror, which this movie has a fucking lot of, I gotta say, man, that scene with the deacon with facing the actual devil, that's nightmare.
Oh, that's definitely
That's
so creepy.
terrifying.
He's going down
I will
this
agree.
like
I will
mine
agree
shaft thing.
that was an amazing scene.
That's
right
probably
there.
the best
But
depiction of the devil in cinema.
I love that,
how
like-
you're like, it's beautiful music. Well, it's not, but shit bucket.
like the thing is, it had all these great elements. It's just at the end of the day, and I will add a caveat that I really do not like horror movies. You know, this is something that I've told you guys in the past.
That's fair.
I don't enjoy horror movies. I don't tend to find them scary.
Me
and
neither.
this one,
That's why I like
doubly
this
so.
film.
No, I did not find this scary at all. And,
I agree.
and
I
it
wasn't
was-
scared.
Yeah.
It really hit me emotionally more than anything.
Right,
Well,
but the ideas are scary.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I think-
failure to protect your daughter. It's like inability to know the truth, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I
it-
think-
just the
This is a movie.
fears that you have as a human being really
This
come
is-
out in this movie.
is a movie about like what's the human condition, but scary. You know what I mean? It's about why we fail. It's about why we freak out. It's about like I think the perfect. I know that we're trying to wrap this up. I'm sorry, but it's like about like I think the scene that really does it for me is like the angry mob. It's like this is what we fucking do.
Yeah,
This is why we're
you
such
just
fucking-
you panic and stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is like I'm not trying to bash your opinion here, Miles.
But
we
It's
are.
yours.
I am.
Just kidding.
But I feel like there's a lot of missed expectations when it comes to horror. People expect it to be like this, like you're
Spooky
constantly
ghost.
spooky, like it's really scary and stuff. I think this taps into what true horror is, where it's about these societal anxieties and baseline fears that just come from like the unknown and unknowing like the truth and just wanting to know what the fuck is happening, and you just don't. And the idea of just being just failing to save your daughter, of not knowing what the right choice is, that's like trying to save someone that you just can't. And it's terrifying to me in that sense. It's not like necessarily like I'm not getting startled and spooked a lot, which I totally appreciate. There's like no real jump scares, but it is very unnerving, and it's haunting. I will say it's haunting. It sticks with me. It stuck with me, at least.
Top tier horror. And by the way, Ronald,
Yeah.
that was amazing. What you just said. That was very well spoken.
Okay,
I'll put
well,
that in a museum.
you know
I'll
what?
put that in his
Oh yeah,
Fine
Korean
then.
women,
I-
they're popping right now for you.
You know what? For now, I'm gonna tie it to a little string above the shit
Tie it on a
bucket,
string and
and
then-
I might cut it at some point and drop it in, but not quite yet.
That's
I
how I,
will
feel
say
about
Give it a
Miles Place
second
Part
watch.
2.
Yeah,
Give it a
anything
second
John
watch.
Krasinski
I'll
makes.
say wait like 5 years, revisit this movie. If you still think it's the shit bucket, you're going in the shit bucket.
Anyways, I believe that's ever. Does anyone else have anything else
No,
to say?
I think
No, I
that's
think
it.
we're good.
Next week, to celebrate Pride Month, we will be talking about LGBT movies. We'll be talking about Moonlight and what's the other name?
But I was
Moonlight
a
and soon to be
cheerleader. But I'm a
decided, yeah.
cheerleader.
But I'm a
But I'm a
cheerleader,
cheerleader.
which
Okay.
is I think it's I don't know. That's such a great movie. I saw that one recently for
Really?
the first time, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait.
I haven't
to talk
heard
about
of it until tonight, but I'm excited to see
But
it.
that's a wrap. Good night. Does anybody have anything to say?
No, thank you for listening.
I love you.
I doubt anyone is, but thank you anyway.
I love you.
안녕하세요. 잘 자세요.
I love you.
Goodbye.
I love you.
Goodbye.
I love you. I got piss.
Yeah.